Plato said that when you go to chemist school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. When you study what we call classical studies, we must know mdw-ntr. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know mdw-ntr. So the most achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.
ATM Hotep, peace. Welcome to the Sesh channel. This is your brother Wujao Medew, and I also have my co-host Emiket Aku Kinshai Akinyi. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hotep, peace, and habari za jioni, oyimore, goafun. Just saying good evening to everyone.
And I was talking with my mic muted. Wow. So again, I want to welcome everybody. Appreciate everybody tuned in. Today is Sunday, the end of the weekend. Everyone's getting ready for the work week. So hopefully everyone enjoyed themselves this weekend and did something productive or relaxed. Had your necessary me time. So tonight, I'm going to jump straight in. And this live stream was basically requested. We were requested to go over once again the images that we were showing in the past few live streams, and those images were the vignettes that are associated with the 5th hour of the Book of Gates. And so there's a lot of controversy in the circus community regarding those images. And so I've already did a breakdown of one set of images throughout the Book of Gates in that 5th hour. But it's kind of scattered between multiple videos, and then other people are making false claims about it. And so we were requested to go over it again, but slow it down and break it down, you know. And so I said, I don't mind. And that's what this live stream is dedicated to. All right. So get your pens out, get your pens and pads. If you have some tea or some water, whatever it is that you drink, make sure you have it. And we're going to jump in. All right. So this is going to be a teaching moment, a learning moment, or a review moment, because some of you all are already familiar with what I'm about to explain. All right. But it's always good to review and freshen up. All right. And for those who it will be new to, if you have any questions, once I'm done explaining, then we'll provide the panel link, and I will be able to pay attention to the chat. All right. So forgive me if I do not see any questions while I'm explaining, because I don't pay attention to the chat while I'm presenting. You know, I don't want to be distracted. It's not that it's negative or anything like that, but sometimes somebody may ask a really good question in the chat in the middle of me explaining, and then it would take me off to explain it. And so to avoid that, I just wait till after I'm done explaining. So bear with me. And again, shout out to everyone. So let me just go through a roll call. Let's see who we have in the chat so far. We have, let's see who was first. Aaron Edwards, Hotep. Sonette Mika, That Good Guy, peace. Omar Reed, peace. Teddy Wasemat Ras Neferu, peace. Brother Damo, peace. Who else do we have? Donnie C, peace. Anybody else? Rawan Fall, Hotep. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Hotep. Buxy, Hotep. And Shefrin Elantu El, Hotep. Yeah, Shefrin, I meant to ask you about your name, because if I didn't know any better, your name is a bit Moorish sounding. I never asked you about that, so you know, another time I'll you can explain it. All right, so again, this show is dedicated to going back over in a more slow pace the images that I've already talked about, but we want to consolidate it into one video. So I'm going to go over it, and like I said, this is a teaching moment, or as Mika just said, a review moment, really, because we've done this before, but we've kind of done it in pieces, scattered in maybe 2 or 3 videos, and so I want to just focus on this issue on this video. All right. So with that being said, Mika, do you have any thing that you want to mention before we get started?
Nen, not really.
All right. So again, appreciate everybody tuned in. Share this video. The title is what it is. You know, what you see is what you get in the title. And what did I title it? Correcting the Theban Mapping Project website and Appealing to Authority Fallacy. So I'm going to go over both of those. All right. But it's in relationship to these images, and you'll see in a hot second when I jump in. All right. All right. So let's dive right in. Let me remove the chat and get things sorted and set up. Okay. So the first thing I need to explain is a logical fallacy. All right. There are many logical fallacies, and logical fallacies are to be avoided by any means necessary. Okay, so if you're not familiar with logical fallacies, they are fallacies in argumentation, debating, you know, when you're trying to argue claims, counterclaims, and the likes. Logical fallacies are brought up in conversations about debates, about arguments, even in the legal system between attorneys. Any debating styled environment, you're going to hear the term logical fallacy or invalid argument or arguments that have no merit, and so on and so forth. You're going to hear those key terms. So I'm not trying to give a lesson on logical fallacies altogether, but this one in particular that's been violated as it relates to these images that I'm going to explain. So this is called appeal to authority, and a lot of people in the circus community violate this logical fallacy. They commit this logical fallacy. And now I've done a video in the past. It's in our archives, and I forget the exact title, but I will try to hunt down that title and link. But I've done a video explaining the difference between appeal to authority, which is a logical fallacy, versus deferring to authority, which is not a logical fallacy. So appeal to authority is something you want to stay away from, while deferring to an authority or an expert is something that is permissible. And there's a difference. So I explained that before, so I don't want to go into that again. But just to explain appeal to authority, something that we should stay away from. So I have it on the screen. Appeal to authority, and the gist of it is, you said that because an authority thinks something, it must therefore be true. Okay, now that's just a general example of the concept of what appeal to authority is. Now you may have heard it manifest or realize in different ways. You've heard people do that. They say, well, so-and-so expert said it. And see, appeal to authority is when a person is arguing a point, and to support their point, they're appealing to authority as if because the person is an authority or expert, that what they're saying must be true, that their claim and points must be true. And that's a logical fallacy. Now, to continue what I have on the screen, because we also have to be careful with this as well, because I've also seen people misuse logical fallacies. Misidentify them. They say, you hear people say, oh, that's a red herring, or, that's a slippery slope, or you're appealing to authority, when people are really not doing that. Okay. So to continue, it's important to note that this fallacy should not be used to dismiss the claims of experts or scientific consensus. Appeals to authority are not valid arguments, but nor is it reasonable to disregard the claims of experts who have a demonstrated depth of knowledge, unless one has a similar level of understanding and or access to empirical evidence. However, it is entirely possible that the opinion of a person or institution of authority is wrong. Therefore, the authority that such a person or institution holds does not have any intrinsic bearing upon whether their claims are true or not. So in other words, what that is all saying is experts and specialists or any authority in a field of study, the logical fallacy of appeal to authority should not be used to dismiss that, because people are experts for a reason. People are specialists for a reason. They have done some work. They've had some kind of training. They've had some experience in whatever it is that they do. So we can't just categorically just use this logical fallacy or misconstrue this logical fallacy and say, nah, authorities mean nothing. Experts mean nothing. So what? Specialist means nothing. Your PhD means nothing. See, we can't do that. What this is saying, and I want to be really clear about this, what this is saying is that basically all human beings can make mistakes. Just because you have an expertise or a specialty or a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's degree in a field, that in and of itself does not make what you say all wise, right, and exact, accurate, or true. So you can't lean on that as if that's the reason why you're correct. Okay, so I hope you all see the difference. All right. Everybody could be wrong. And you can't hold your education achievements as the reason why you are always right. because you can have the highest PhD of PhDs. You can have a BS, MS, PhD of a PhD, squared, cubed, and still be wrong. Okay. So, all right. Just wanted to lay that foundation first. All right. Now, the reason why I'm starting off with this is because, as the title of this video states, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna correct an authority right here in real time. And I've done this before, but like I said, I was requested to do this again, but you know, break it down and slow things down more into one video. Okay. So that authority in this case is the Theban Mapping Project website. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch over to it. I want to pull it up so you all can see the website and what's going on here. Actually, let me all right, I'm going to pull up the website. Let me go to the home page and share it. So I want you all to see what I'm seeing, if I can get to it. Okay, so here's the website, and hopefully you all can see this. And like I said, I'm not paying attention to the chat, but MCAT, if you can help me out and if make sure everyone can see that. Okay, so this is the homepage of the Theban Mapping website. It's a very good website, and if you read, I'm not gonna read it. The about and everything like that, but you can go to the website and click on the menu and go to the about us and so on to find out everything about it. But it is a site that a lot of people are familiar with and go to deal with the Valley of the Kings that you see on the screen, and basically the whole Theban mapping project of Thebes. All right, it's a Theban mapping project. So these are all the different findings and places in and around Thebes. All right, so let me scroll down, and you can see now it is a project. They call it the Theban Mapping Project, but it's a project that's brought that's what do you call it? Sponsored by the American University in Cairo. Okay, as you can see right here at the bottom. All right, it's the American University of Cairo, specifically the American Research Center in Egypt, in partnership with the American University in Cairo, the Egyptology department. Okay, so these two are collaborating to bring to us, or bring to the public, the Theban Mapping Project. Now, the American University in Cairo and the American Research Center in Egypt, they are places or institutions that hold, people who are specialists, experts, and so on and so forth in the field. And so this is why I'm reading Appeal to Authority, Logical Fallacy, so that these people are respectable scholars in the field who are actually do the work. Now, whoever is responsible for putting together the Theban Mapping Project's website and the content of the website and so on and so forth is not necessarily one of these scholars or professors and so on and so forth, because the website doesn't say exactly who is responsible for, the content of the website, the maintenance of the website, or anything like that. So, and I'm only saying that because there could be mistakes on websites that may not be that the people who are doing work may be unaware of. We don't know that. All right, so let me get to the image that we're going to correct. So actually, all right, let me stop sharing that one, and we're going to move over to the image. we're pulling it up right here. All right. So, hopefully you all can see it. Let me expand it. All right. Hopefully you all can see that. And let me make it big. So we're still on the same site. And this is an image, a very, very, very small image from a very, very big tomb, the tomb of Ramses III. As a matter of fact, let me back up out of this and see if I can go to the tomb. Let's see. Ramses III. All right. It's KV11, which is Ramses III. All right. A lot of the Valley of the Kings, the tombs are known as KV and then in a sequential numerical order. But we're going to go to Ramses III, which I just had a second ago. Where'd it go? Here we go. KV11. We're going to click on that, and I want you all to see. Here we go. This is what I want you all to see. Look how big the tomb is. And all of its parts. Okay, you have, it's very extensive. Look how long it is. It starts up here and then it starts to go down, down, down. And if I hover over it, you can see, an image over each letter. Here's B, BB, and so on. I can keep on going down, but look how elaborate this tomb is and how long it is. And just to give you sizing, if I hover over, you can see the entrance and look at the size of the people. And I know it may be a little small for you all to see online, but just kind of squint your eye a little bit, you'll be able to see it. But this is a huge tomb. It's nothing to play with. All right. So now it should put in a little bit of perspective why I said that image, this image here, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here we go. This image here is a very, very small image within that whole entire tomb. It's on a small corner of a wall in the tomb, this image right here. But this is the image that one of the images I'm gonna deal with. All right, so let's just jump into it. Now, let me point out the mistake on this website. The mistake is obviously not the image because it's just an image. It was actually photographed by Ramses Iii, and my understanding that that's
It's a Polish name.
Okay, it's a Polish name, so we can assume that it's a Polish photographer. And if you actually look him up, you can see his portfolio and things like that. He's just a photographer, so he's not deemed as any expert in the field whatsoever. He's just giving a credit for taking the photo, like he should. All photographers who take these kinds of photos, you usually see their names. But here's the mistake. So the picture is fine. The mistake is the caption under the picture. It says, "The Nubians in the 5th hour of the Book of Gates in the tomb of Ramses III." The error is that these two figures right here in this particular tomb of Ramses III do not represent Nubians. These two figures are 2 of 4 figures that represent the ancient Egyptians themselves. Okay, so what this website should say, if they're going to use this picture, it should say the Egyptians in the 5th hour of the Book of Gates in the tomb of Ramses III. Or to correct this, that's one way that they can correct this page, by changing the word Nubians to the word Egyptians, if they want to keep the picture, this same picture there. Or if they want to keep the caption there and talk about the Nubians, they need to change the picture to show a reflection of the representation of the Nubians in this particular tomb. And I'm going to walk you through that and show you why. All right. So that's the error, and I'm telling you how they can correct it. And by the way, this website has a contact email, contact form where you can contact them. And I've contacted them maybe 4 years ago now. No, not 4 years ago. Um, it's been a long while ago now, and for two reasons. I contacted them because of this issue here in the past, but I also contacted them because I wanted to ask permission to use a picture on their website that's not this picture. It's a totally different picture, and I don't know how actively they engage their own, the website and things, but um, they don't correspond like they should. They don't correspond back to you. They don't get back to you like they should. Um, so okay, so I'm gonna walk you through why this is an error right here, and let me switch out so I can stop sharing that, and we're gonna come back to me. All right, so you all should be clear by now on appeal to authority, but we're gonna go over this image here. So this is the image, the exact same image from the website, but I have it here so I can, use my trusty arrow and point some things out. Now, I want you all to, well, first of all, this is what I have to do, and like I said, I was told to go back over this stuff and break it down, slow it down, and really hit all the points. Okay, so in this website, you see where it says the Nubians in the 5th hour of the Book of Gates in the tomb of Ramses III. So I already told you what the error is, that they have Nubians there, and it shouldn't be there, not for this picture. But the question now is, or should be, well, what is the Book of Gates? What is the general, what is that about? What is the Book of Gates? Because this is the 5th hour of the Book of Gates. So let me give you a little bit of background of the Book of Gates. Okay, so let me do that for you real quick. Let me find that, and I'm using things that everyone should have access to for free. And once I'm done explaining this, I'll open it up, and if anybody wants any more information and things, I'll be glad to share. I have like files and files of resources and primary sources and things like that. But I'm going to share the Wikipedia article on the Book of Gates because that's free, and everyone should have access to it. So I just want to show what the Book of Gates is, just in general. All right. So here we are, the Wikipedia article of the Book of Gates. And by the way, let me give a disclaimer about the Wikipedia. I remember when Wikipedia first hit the scene and people first start finding out about it and using it, it was laughed at. You were ridiculed if you use Wikipedia. It was like, oh man, that's not a real thing. You're pseudo, when it first came out. I remember those days. Now, over time, Wikipedia has built up a pretty solid reputation because the design of the online encyclopedia, because they cite all of the claims, or they try their best to. Like, for example, you see these superscripted numbers here. You always go to the bottom of the Wikipedia articles and look up the references and bibliographies and so on and so forth, and that's the bread and butter of what you're supposed to get. So Wikipedia is an excellent source or resource to use to begin with. You don't want to end with Wikipedia, but it's a good place to start, just like any encyclopedia. So just because it's digital and online doesn't mean it's basically graduated out of that ridicule phase, and now it's accepted. Wikipedia is pretty much accepted as a starting point. Okay, so you don't want to conclude on Wikipedia. You don't want to rely on Wikipedia for your dissertation and thesis. All right. Okay, so back to this, the Book of Gates. So the Book of Gates is an ancient Egyptian funerary text Now, I refer to it, and others refer to it as an underworld text. Okay, because there's a series of texts that deal with the underworld. All right, the Book of Caverns, the Book of Earth, the Book of Gates, Amduat, those books, we refer to those as underworld texts, and you see the word underworld here. But the Book of Gates is an ancient Egyptian funerary text dating from the New Kingdom. All right, so that's important to keep in mind, the New Kingdom. It narrates the passage of a newly deceased soul into the next world, corresponding to the journey of the sun through the underworld during the hours of the night. The soul is required to pass through a series of gates, which is why it's called the Book of Gates, at different stages in the journey. Each gate is associated with a different goddess and requires that the deceased recognize the particular character of that deity. You got to say some passwords to get through the gate and things. The text implies that some people will pass through unharmed, but that others will suffer torment in the lake of fire. Doesn't that sound familiar, though, to Christianity's lake of fire in the book of Revelation, I believe? But that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, but now let's get to a famous portion of the book of Gates. Now, the Book of Gates is an elaborate text. Okay, by the way, but what we're focusing on is this famous portion of it. So it says the most famous part of the Book of Gates today refers to the different races of humanity known to the Egyptians, dividing them up into let's count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, 4. Dividing them up into 4 categories. Now I stress 4 because there are people making claims, as of within the last week, that the Book of Gates only has 3. And I have no idea where they get that claim from, because nowhere in any scholarship on the planet Earth that deals with the Book of Gates says that there's only 3 categories. It's always 4. And you can actually see 4 all the time. So they divide up humanity into 4 categories that are now conventionally labeled. They have Reth here. And by the way, Reth, R-E-T-H, is an early 1800, or put it this way, the 1800s spelling of the word Remech. Okay, so you can find R-E-T-H being spelled by the likes of Budge and his contemporaries, which is the late 1800s, from 1850 on. But after that, the more appropriate spelling of that term, which is Remech, is used by everyone today. All scholars that you pick up any scholarship or any book about Egypt today, they will have it spelled Remetch, Remech, or Remetj, to have that ch sound, Remech. But any case, we have 4 groups or 4 categories. The first category being the Egyptians, which are the Remech. Category number 2 are the Asiatics, but the Egyptian word is Amu. The third category is called Nubians, but the Egyptian word is Nehisu. The fourth and last category are Libyans, and the Egyptian word is Chemehu. And as a side note, Chemehu is one of the words that people in the circus community are mistranslating and misinterpreting as white people or Tamahu. And they say that's the Europeans. No such thing existed in ancient Kemet. All right, that's a little sidebar. Now these are depicted in procession entering the next world. Okay, so that's the gist of this section of the Book of Gates. Now, so I just wanted you all to see. Now let's look at the images on the side here. So here is a reproduced drawing of the 4 categories. So now I need to mention and make clear that in the Book of Gates, these four categories of human beings are always listed in the same order. The Egyptians are first, the Asiatics are always second, the Nubians are always third, and the Libyans are always last. Okay? It's always in that order. Now, if you look at the picture here, it's in that order, but in reverse. Because these figures are facing to the right, you're going to read from right to left. So you're going to read in this direction. You're going to read towards the left. So the first image is representation of the Egyptian. The second image is the Amu, or Asiatic. The third image is the Nehisiu, or what people call Nubians. And the last are the Chemehu, or Libyans. All right. But because we in English, we read from left to right, they captioned this as, Libyan. They're going to say it in reverse. Libyan, Nehisiu, Amu, and then Egyptian, as you can see under the picture. Now, these are reproduced drawings coming from one location that the Book of Gates is in, which is, in this case, this tomb of Seti I. All right. This is also a reproduction from the same tomb. Okay. Now, something else that I need to make clear. In the Book of Gates for these figures, although you're only seeing one of the four, so you're seeing four figures, in the Book of Gates, there are four sets of four. So there are four Egyptian figures, four Asiatic figures, four Nehisiu figures, or Nubian figures, and four Libyan figures. Okay? For the sake of redrawing it, the artist only drew one of each. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's clear and that's understood. And I hope you all are walking with me on this. All right, so let me stop sharing that and come back to my screen. And so now I just want to give you a little bit more information about the Book of Gates. And that is where it can be found. Because in my experience of talking to people about the Book of Gates, people think that it's a single book only located in one place, like a stele, or a statue somewhere, and that's the wrong thing to think. That's the wrong thinking. The Book of Gates is similar to the Book of the Dead in the sense that the Book of the Dead, there are many, many, many copies of it in many, 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 many tombs on many, many, many papyri. Okay, the Book of Gates is the same. It exists in multiple places, but it only exists in a certain era of time in the ancient Egyptian history. So I'm going to read a little bit of background on where you can find this text. So the Book of Gates has been found in most of the royal tombs of the New Kingdom, which means in the 18th dynasty after the Amarna period. Okay, so I want you all to keep that in mind. This book exists or is found in most of the royal tombs of this time period. So it's plentiful. There are plenty of copies in the tombs. It exists or is found in part together with or in place of the mdw-ntr, which is another book. Okay, another text, another quote unquote funerary text, but we call it an underworld text. Now, in the tombs of Horemheb and Ramses I, the Book of Gates replaces the mdw-ntr. By the way, the word mdw-ntr is mdw-ntr, which is that which is in the underworld. That's what it means. That which is in the underworld. And so it explains that which is in the underworld. That's what the text does. But the Book of Gates in the tombs of Horemheb and Ramses I, the Book of Gates replaces the mdw-ntr. So these two places is where you can find it. And I'm going to just bold this so that everyone can see all the places where it exists. So we got the tomb of Horemheb, the tomb of Ramses I. Now, however, only selections of only a selection of scenes from the Book of Gates are depicted on the walls of Ramses I's burial chamber. In the tomb of Seti I, here's another one, Seti I. In the tomb of Seti I, there are individual night hours from the first part of the book on the walls of the two large pillared halls, with the burial chamber again being decorated with the amduat. So keep that in mind. So we got parts of the book on two large pillared halls, and then the remainder of the book, as we're going to find out, is on the sarcophagus. All right, and you'll find that being the case in many of these other tombs as well. So to continue, a complete and sequentially arranged copy of the book is mounted on the alabaster sarcophagus of Seti I, and that's what I just said. All right, so it says a complete and sequential arranged copy of the book. So that means the whole sarcophagus is lined with this book. All right, now in the tomb of Ramses II, let me highlight that one. The book is divided between the upper and lower pillared halls. His successor, which is Merneptah, which is another tomb where you can find it, decorates the upper pillared hall, which is KV8, with excerpts from the Book of Gates, while a complete version of this book is affixed to the inside and outside walls of his sarcophagus. So just like Seti I, you know. In the entrance corridor of the Osirion, in Abju or Abydos, the pharaoh had the Book of Gates placed on the right and the Book of Caves on the left in complete copies, some in sunk relief and some in painting. In the tomb of Seti II, here's another one. The Book of Gates, which is mainly executed in painted relief, can be found in the first and only pillared hall. Only a few fragments of the Book of Gates on alabaster have survived from the tomb of Si-Ptah. So here's another one. In the tomb of Ta-Wuseret, which is another one, which was later usurped by Seth-Nakhet, which is another one. The sarcophagus hall is decorated with the Book of Gates. All right, so I'm just giving you a little bit of context about the Book of Gates and where it could be found. All right, now the important place of my discussion hasn't been mentioned yet, so let me continue. So Book of Gates continued. Now, in the tomb of Ramses III, which is where we are, which is where we are in this picture here. In the tomb of Ramses III, the Book of Gates selection is divided between the upper pillared hall and the lower sarcophagus hall, while his sarcophagus is additionally adorned with excerpts from the Amduat and some scenes from the Book of Earth. The sarcophagus hall of his successor, which is Ramses IV, is entirely dedicated to the Book of Gates. The full version of the text is found in the upper part of the tomb of Ramses VI. So you see this book exists in many places. Am I missing anything? Let's see. I already mentioned Osirion. I'm just trying to make sure. Oh, and I'm skip down. As the last pharaoh of the New Kingdom, of this era of time, Ramses VII follows the example of Ramses VI, and I have that already, having parts of the book displayed in the only corridor on the left wall and opposite the cave book. And then it said, then after that, the Book of Gates disappears from royal tombs. So this is the last king where the Book of Gates is found in the tomb. Now, its echoes remain in the tombs of Ramses IX. So we're going to highlight that, give it a little special honorable mention. Preserved as images of depicted doors with sentinel snakes. Only once was the Book of Gates found in a private grave outside of the royal cult. The third Amun priest, which is Cha-Nefer, under Ramses III, had a selection of scenes from different hours of the Book of Gates depicted in his tomb. All right. So I think that's enough. I just wanted to read and go over that to establish a little bit of context for everybody to follow along with what this text is and where it can be found. All right, the gist of it. Now, I would love to have a separate series of conversations about the context of the content of the Book of Gates, because it's very, 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 very interesting, to say the least. Okay, so now let's dive into the correction. Now we're going to go into the tomb of Ramses III. And that is where the Theban mapping project chose to use the image from in order to put on their website and the page, Nubians. Now, as I just went over, the Book of Gates exists in multiple tombs, multiple places. It's the same text. And in the text, in the 5th hour of this text, they talk about the creatures of Ra, humanity, these different human groups, as being technically it's called the Out-Ni-Ra, which is the cattle of Ra, like a herd, a flock, Ra's flock of people. And so in this section of the tomb, it mentions 4 groups or 4 categories, as we read in the Wikipedia article. And they're always listed in the text with the Egyptians first, the Asiatics second, Nubians third, Libyans being last. So in all the tombs that I just mentioned where you find this text, if the tomb contains the complete copy, or it contains the 5th hour of the Book of Gates, it's going to list those groups in that order. All right. And in most of the tombs that I mentioned, the text is illustrated, as you see on the screen right here. Not all of the tombs have what we call vignettes, which are illustrations. No different than what we do today with books. You know how you write a book, or you're reading a book, and they'll have a paragraph explaining something, but then they'll say, see figure 4 or see diagram A. And so the people will illustrate their text. Well, the ancient Egyptians did that and were masters at that. Okay, so you never divorce the figures, or what we call vignettes, from the text. You never divorce those two. You have to take them both together. Never, ever, ever, ever separate the two and try to explain one without the other. Okay? And people do that, and people who do that, they are 99% wrong each and every time. Okay, so all right, so now what I want you to pay attention to, so here's why we know that this is an error on the part of the Theban mapping project website. So what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to some of the glyphs here in this image. So what do we see here? So we see 2 figures. They're both facing to the right. And in between both figures, we have a seated deity with a royal beard. That's the beard that's curved, like a hook. The beard that's curved. And in front of this figure, we have 3 strokes, but only 2 of them are showing. The third one is cut off where the picture was cropped. But there are 3 single strokes right here. But we're only looking at 2. All right. Now, there are 2 other figures for group. Remember what I said? There are 4 groups of 4 figures each that represent each category, each of the 4 categories. So in the actual tomb, if this picture wasn't cropped, there would be 4 of these figures side by side. And in between the 4 figures, it spells out what category they represent of the 4. Remember what I said? Egyptians are first, Asiatics second, Nubians third, Libyans are last. So if we could see the 2 other figures, you will see in between the figures the full word of who these figures are supposed to represent out of those categories. Now these figures here happen to represent the ancient Egyptians. All right. As a matter of fact, last night when I was moving my arrow around, the screen keeps blinking, and I think that was irritating to some people. So let me share this a different way. So give me 1 second, and I apologize for that. I'm going to share it a different way, the old-fashioned way. Bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Okay, you all probably won't see it as big. Let me see. How can I do this? Can I collapse this? Yep. And all right, that's good enough. So I'm going to share it this way. That way it won't you all see you'll be able to see it better. So if I move it, it's not blinking around. Nope. Oh, it is blinking. It's still blinking. All right, well, we just gonna have to deal with that, y'all. Let me get it back. All right, I'll try not to move my arrow so much. All right, so at any rate, the image that we're looking at right here, this portion of the tomb, these two figures are actually two of the four figures that are representations of the ancient Egyptians and not the Nubians. So that is the error that I spoke about earlier on their website, because the Theban website has this captioned as if these were representations of the Nubians in the tomb, and it's not. We're in the tomb of Ramses III. And so, but here's how you can find out. So remember, I read the appeal to authority. Just because the Theban website has its backing of a university and a research center does not mean that they can't make mistakes or is mistaken. So, but now here is how you actually demonstrate and show and prove the mistake, and then, offer the correction or the solution to the problem. But you have to, have enough information yourself to be able to even do this. So I'm going to show you all, you all are going to do this with me right now. All right. So now, how do you know, or how will we know if what I'm saying is true or false? So what I want you all to do is to pay attention to these glyphs. Right here at the top, we have a mouth. All right. As a matter of fact, let me just go and grab this image. See, do I have it? Or maybe Imiket, if you could post up the word rimage as you see it here in the column, and just let me know if you can get that. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you all this because it's in, and I will make it smaller. Don't worry about how big it is. All right. So, what I want you all to pay attention to these glyphs here. So we have a mouth. Now you got to read from right to left in this instance, okay? They're facing to the right. We're going to read from right to left. We have a mouth. We have a tethering rope. We have a kneeling man with his arm extended. We have a seated woman. And then we have 3 strokes. Okay, this is the word remech or rimage. All right. This is not the word nehisu, which is the word used for Nubians. This is the word remech. And what I want you to take a look at the mouth here, and look at the mouth up here. Look at the tethering rope here. You see the tethering rope here. You see the kneeling man with the arm extended. You see a stylized version of the same glyph. It's a kneeling man with his arm extended, but it's stylized. Then you see a seated woman, In this case, you see a seated deity, though. You see 3 strokes here. You see 3 strokes. This word right here is also the word rimage. Okay, this is the word rimage. Now, in the glyphs that I showed earlier, you see the same seated deity with the curved royal beard right here, and you see the 3 strokes right here. So coming from the left, going right, it spells out the word rimage. Okay. Now I'm going to show you this same picture. Now this picture is directly from the Theban mapping website. But now we're going to go into the tomb itself and look at a much better picture. A full picture of all 4 figures of the same. All right. And let me get to that and show that. And here we are. All right, this is the same tomb, the tomb of Ramses III. This is the same set of figures, except the Theban mapping website only had these 2 figures. This one where a purple arrow is pointed to, and this one in front. And notice that they cropped the picture, so all you can see is just these 2 figures. And how we know that is because you see the seated deity right there, and you see the 3 strokes that I mentioned. So y'all see that? As a matter of fact, just to make sure you see it, I'm going to crop this picture just like how the Theban mapping website cropped its picture. And that is right here. This is the same. I took this picture right here and simply cropped it. And I could do that live with y'all. You could see how the whole picture is there, but the other one is faded. The other out parts are faded. And then when I actually crop it and execute the crop, you get this is the result. And that is what you see on the Theban mapping website. So let's look at the full picture without it being cropped, which is this here. Remember the glyphs I told you all to pay attention to. We have the mouth, because I want you all to see that we're in the same spot in the tomb. All right. We have the mouth, the tethering rope here, the kneeling man with his arm extended, but it's a stylized version, the seated deity with the curved beard, and the 3 strokes. That spells the word rimage. And let's find the glyphs in between these figures. So we have the mouth right here. We have the mouth right there. We have the tethering rope right here. We have the tethering rope right here. We have the stylized kneeling man with the arm extended. Stylized kneeling man with the arm extended. Seated deity. Seated deity. 3 strokes. 3 strokes. So you all see how this is. Now you all are doing this with me, or I'm doing this in real time so you all can follow. That spells the word rimage. And remember what I said, the Book of Gates, out of the 4 categories of human beings, it always lists the rimage first, or the ancient Egyptians first. And this is the first set of 4 out of the 16 figures. The other figures, now I want you to pay attention to something else in this tomb. And again, we're in the tomb of Ramses III. We're along this wall, we're hitting a corner. And then you have to go 90 degrees, hit the corner. The rest of the figures are along this wall, not the wall that we're looking at. Okay, so now let's break away from this, and I want to orientate everyone where we are in the tomb. So this is where we are. So let's pretend that we walked in the tomb in this direction. We came in the tomb in this direction. If we look to our left and then face the left, we're going to be looking at those 4 rimage, which represent ancient Egyptians. Here's that 90-degree corner. And then we have the other figures along this wall. So we have 4 Asiatics, we're going to have 4 Nubians, and then we're going to have 4 Libyans. Okay, I'm just giving you all the orientation of where we are. So this picture right here, we're looking at that wall, which is represented by this green arrow. We're looking in that direction. All right. That's these 4 figures. Now you see the first figure right here, over here on the right hand side, you see the first figure of who? Of the Asiatics. It's the first figure. Now the picture is cut off, but there's 3 more figures after that. Okay. So remember, the Theban mapping website said that the 2 figures it was showing was the Nubians. But the Nubians are further down this wall. So why did they show these 2 figures and say that they were Nubians when we can clearly see that they're supposed to represent the Remech? Okay? So that's an error on their part. Now, let me show you another angle of this tomb just so we can be a little bit clearer on what's going on. So now we're going to face this wall. So let me go back to my diagram. Now we're going to face this wall where the blue arrow is. We're going to face this wall. So let's do it. Bam. All right, there we are. So now we're facing the wall. Let me change this to green because I got to get my color coordination. Okay, this green arrow is the same as this green arrow. Okay, we look to the left, we see Egyptians. And we look to the left, we see the Egyptians. So we only see 3 because the 4th one is cut out of the picture. But we see 1, 2, 3, and then there's a 4th one afterwards. But it's cut out from this picture. But what we can see is the first Asiatic, the second one, third one, and the 4th one. See? The 4 Asiatics. The group of 4. And likewise, we see the glyphs in between them. We see the throw stick. We see the owl. And we see the quail chick. And then we see the plural strokes. All right? So I hope you all following that. And who comes after the Amu or Asiatics? Always. Who always comes? Who's third all the time? The Nubians. And that's what you see right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. This tan frame is for the glass, the protective glass that is in the tomb. They don't want people to touch the wall, so they got glass covering it. So it's blocking, one of the figures that we can see. But there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the question is, why didn't the Theban mapping project show 2 of these figures, which are the actual Nubians in the tomb? How do we know that? Because their name is in between the figures, just like the other ones I showed. All right. Now I'm going to zoom in and show you the name right here. Okay, so let me slide this down a bit, just so you'll see where we are in the tomb. This is that wall. Right here is a reflection. This is a reflection of this figure right here in the glass because the angle the photographer took it. But this wall facing that way is where the 4 sets of Egyptians are. The 4 Remech figures are. There is an Asiatic figure right here, but it's being blocked by the frame of this glass. And then you have the throw stick. Then you have the second figure, and then you have the owl. The third figure, then you have the quail chick. Then you have the 4th figure and the plural strokes. And together that spells the word Amu, which is what people translate as Asiatics. They're second. Third, as I said, are the Nubians. The first figure, second figure, third figure, fourth figure. How do we know they're Nubians? Because the name of that category is right in between them. So we have the Neh bird, or Nehi bird, as people say. Then we have the twisted flax. We have the folded cloth glyph. And then we would have the quail chick glyph here, but it's being blocked a bit by this frame. And then over here we have the plural strokes in front of the last four figure. The plural strokes, you see it? That together spells the word Nehisiu, which is translated as Nubians. So if the Theban mapping website was, the intention was to show or caption the Nubians within this tomb, they should be showing two of these, any two out of these four figures, but they didn't. They showed the four figures, or two of the four figures from the Remech group. And that, ladies and gentlemen, as the brother Garfield likes to say, is a mistake. It's an error. So here I am correcting the Theban mapping website, regardless of the center of research and the university or what have you backing the project. All right. And I'm demonstrating the mistake and suggesting the solution. All they have to do is swap their picture they have on their site for these two. Just show these two figures, because we can read it. We can see the name. Now, to reinforce this, I'm going to show you the name above in the text. The name Nehisiu, see the Neh bird? That same bird is right here. You see that? And I'm not sure if y'all can see it good, but this is as big as I believe I can get this picture. That's the Neh bird. It's facing to the right. The same bird is facing to the right. You see the twisted flax right here? It starts in the next column right here, twisted flax. I mean, you see damage. You see this damage within the tomb here, but this is the lower part of twisted flax right here. The folded cloth here is represented by a door bolt that would be sitting here, but it's damaged. You can see a little bit of it right here where the arrow is, above this coil, this spiral rope or coiled rope glyph right there. It'll be above it. The coil rope is transliterated as a W, and down here is represented by the quail chick. All right. Then you see the three strokes, and you see the three strokes over here. That is the word Nehisiu within the text above, and it's also branded on the figures in between these figures right here. So these are the third group, which are called Nubians, as always in the Book of Gates. So this is what the Theban mapping project should have. They should have a picture of these, of any one of these, two of these, three of these, four of these figures, not the ones that they're showing. Okay, so that's that. But I want you all to pay attention now. So again, to show their picture again, let's show their picture one more time. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Up here. This is their picture from their website. Look above it. You can see where we are in the tomb. This is not this part of the tomb that says Nehisiu or Nubians. None of this text up here is reflective of that. If we go back to where the Nubians actually are in the tomb, you don't see any of that. You don't see any of the same glyphs above them, anywhere above them. Why? Because it's in a different part of the tomb. It's over here, way down here to the left. If I keep scrolling the picture, it's way over here. All right, so they're mistaken. Okay, so hopefully everybody follow with that. All right. Now, I don't want to stop there, because this is what I covered last time, but we're going to take it a few steps further. We're going to correct more pages on their website right here in real time right now. All right, so that's that. Okay, that's the that picture that they're calling Nubians, but they're really representations of the Ramech, the ancient Egyptians. All right. So now let's go back to the site. Give me 1 second. Let me go back to the website if I can. All right. We are going to go. All right, we went from the Nubians. All right, let's go with the. All right, let's go here. Here's another page on their website. Again, we're at the same website. Here's another picture from the same tomb now. This is Ramses III. Okay, so look at the picture. Look at the caption. It says Libyans of the 5th hour of the Book of Gates. So now this page of their site is dedicated to the Libyans. But guess what? This picture is not the Libyans. This picture is in fact the picture of the Amu, the Asiatics. Well, Jao, how do you know that? I'll show you. And not only am I going to show you, you all are going to walk through this again, like I did the other one, with me on this one. Okay? So let me switch over. So I want you all to see, this is from their website. They have two of the 4 figures. They're calling this image, they're labeling this image Libyans. That is incorrect. They need to change Libyans to Asiatics. Asiatics. The Amu, not the Chimehu. All right, so here's why. I'm going to show you. So let me switch back over. All right, so we left the Nubians alone. Now we're going to go to what I just said. So pull up this picture. So this is their picture from their website. Okay, this is the picture. Now, again, I want you to pay attention to the glyphs right here. So the first thing you notice in the figures, you see like a side lock. You see the where's my trusty arrow? I need my arrow. Make this one red. So you see the side lock coming down the face. The side lock coming down the face. You see like this collar under the armpit, over the shoulder and under the armpit type of sash. You see the same thing right here, but it's a little bit more faded. The sash goes over the shoulder and under the armpit. Or that's the way it's tied. The garment is tied. Also notice the owl right here. This is a bird, an owl. Okay, so I want you to just peep what you're looking at in the scene. And remember what I told you. In the Book of Gates, the 4 categories of human beings are always in a certain order. The Egyptians are first. The Amu or Asiatic are second. The Nehesiu or Nubians are third. The Chimehu or Libyans are fourth. Always. They're calling on the website, they're calling these people Libyans, which is the 4th category now. But this is really the 2nd category of Asiatics. All right, so let's go back in the tomb. I'm going to show you where this is in the tomb. And I'm going to make my case. So let's walk back in the tomb. All right, that's the Ramech. That's the 1st category. That's the Ramech. We already covered that. And here are the 2nd category of Amu. Right here. The first figure is missing, like I said, it's cut out of the picture, and that reflection is blocking it. But it's the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th figures of the Asiatic group, the Amu. Now, what I want you to pay attention to, now notice, remember I said, if they were the Libyans, they would be the last group. You wouldn't see the Nubians after them if these were the Libyans. But these are not. These are the Asiatics, the Amu. Now, notice what I said. Remember I said, look at the sash, look at the over the collar, under the armpit. Look at the side lock, over the shoulder, under the armpit. I said the same for this one, over the shoulder, under armpit, and how this is faded a bit. There's the owl. You see the owl bird right there? So that's what they're showing. They're showing these two figures, but they're not Libyans like they said. These are Amu. These are Asiatics. Let's reinforce it. Look in between these two figures. Look at these two glyphs right here. You see the twisted flax and you see a quail chick. And above them, you see plants, two plants. So just take a mental snapshot of these four glyphs that are in between. And look at this damage right here. Look at this damage. It looks like a head with two ears sticking out the side or something. Look like somebody's face with whatever. That's damage though. But I just want you to pay attention to that. Pay attention to these four glyphs. And then notice some other things. Now let's go back to the Theban mapping picture. You all see that? You see the twisted flax, quail chick, the two plants. And you see that damage done? It's the same damage right there in the middle, right below these glyphs. But they're not Libyans. But the website said it was. These are the Amu. These are the Asiatics. So that's error number 2 on the website. All right. Now let me show you their name. Here are the names of all four groups. And let me see. Do I have them separate? The Amu are here. The Remich are here. And it's always in this order. The Remich first, Amu second, Nehisu third, and the Chimeu last. I'm just showing you the four groupings. This that throw stick, this the owl, this the quail chick, 3 strokes. So let me show you that in the tomb. One more again. Throw stick, owl, quail chick, plural strokes. You'll see that? That's the Amu, not Libyans. Okay? So let's put a period on that. Hope y'all are following me. I don't care if they're an American Egypt Research Center or the American University in Cairo of Egyptology or what have you. The website has 2 errors so far that I'm demonstrating. I'm not just saying it, I'm showing it. Demonstration always beats conversation. And I'm demonstrating it live. All right? Let's go to the next one. Where is the other picture? Right here. So let me share this. We're going back to their website. Now we're looking at another page on their website. This picture is dark. That's how they have it. It's pretty dim or dark. But what I want you to pay attention to is the label. They're calling these figures Asiatic. Matter of fact, let me click on more details so we can see it better. Yeah. Hopefully y'all can see that. Oh, can you see it? Oh, there you go. So this is a Theban mapping. So this image is dim, but they labeled it Asiatics. But are they the Asiatics? The answer is no. Again, the website made a mistake. These are actually the Libyans. So they swapped it wrong. They have the Asiatics for Libyans and Libyans for Asiatics. And they did the same thing for Nubians. They calling the Egyptians Nubians. But they don't show the Nubians. All right, so Wajal, how do you know that? How do you know this? All right, so let's walk through this one. Now, so let me switch over because I need my arrow. I need my arrows. Let me switch over. I want you all to see the image, and we're going to go over to it right here. So here's the image that they have on their website. They're calling these folks Asiatics, but they're not. These are the Libyans. So, Wajal, how do you know? All right, so let's point out some things like we did last time. Get my arrow. Now, in this figure, notice the headband. He got a headband around his hair. They got the black pointy beard. They got a colorful garment on. He has a colorful garment on. He has the ribbon or whatever the headband is hanging out the back. Same thing with this guy. Got a headband tied in the back and then it's hanging. He has a pointy beard, colorful garment. In between this figure is a quail chick. That's a bird. It's a quail chick. So keep all of that in mind. All right. Now, just to reinforce, I want you to look at a glyph above this guy. So we got the quail chick, and we just move up. So we see a coil rope. We see what looks like a cross, and we see a reed leaf. These are two planks intersecting, but it looks like a cross. I'm just telling y'all so you all can just take a mental image snapshot. So we got two crisscrossing planks, reed leaf, a coil rope, and 3 strokes. And above this guy, we got a front face, open mouth, horn viper, water ripple, single stroke. I'm just giving you things to pay attention to so that we can walk in the tomb again and find out where this picture really came from. Now they're calling these people the Asiatics, but they're not. They're Libyans, and I'm gonna prove it right now. All right, so let's go back into the tomb. Go back to my tomb picture. All right, here we are. I believe this picture is cropped, and you're not gonna see them. So remember, the Libyans, they're calling them Asiatics. The Asiatics would be second. Now, these are the Asiatics. Do you see a pointed beard? Do you see a beard on these guys anywhere? No. Do you see a headband on these guys anywhere? No. But this is the same tomb. So they're calling those guys on their page the Asiatics when these are the Asiatics. These are the Amu. We already broke that down. So the third figures would be the Libyans. And so they're over here to the right. And this picture cuts off right here is a reflection. All this is a reflection and then the column. So we can't see. We see the first figure of the Libyans right here, but it's damaged. We gotta move over some more. So I gotta switch pictures. All right. So let's do that. Oh, that's the same picture that blew up. Same picture. Oops. Yep. Where's my Libyan picture? All right, here we go. So here's the picture. Now, let me zoom in. I want y'all to see this really good. I'm gonna zoom in. Look at this figure. Pointed beard, headband with the tail of it hanging off. This figure, headband, tail of it hanging off, tied in the back, pointed beard. You see the damage in front of his forehead? The damage from the tomb in front of his forehead? Let's go back to the Theban mapping picture. And you're going to see that same damage right there. And there it is right there. See that damage? Right at the forehead? But guess what? These are not Asiatics. As the website says, these are Libyans. Let me go back to my image. Here we go. Remember that quill check I told y'all to look for? Here it is right here. Unfortunately, this tan glass brace is blocking it, but you can see part of the bird. It's right here. Remember the glyphs above I said pay attention to? We got the cross will look like a cross, but it's two wood planks crossing each other. The reed leaf, the coil, remember I said the spiral coil, the 3 strokes. It's right there. Then I said above this guy, remember I said the front face, the mouth, horn viper, water ripple, and then the single stroke? It's right there. So what they're showing are these two figures. But guess what? They're not Asiatics. They're Libyans. They're the Chimehu. Okay, Chimehu. So let me show you how Chimehu is spelled in the glyphs. And then I'll point out the glyphs to you. So, you see the tethering rope? That's where we get that ch sound, like in church. Ch. This whip right here, the glyph, is where we get the mh, meh, meh. So we have ch, meh. And then the quail chick, we're pronouncing it oo. Chimehu. Chimehu. All right? So the tethering rope, the whip, quail chick. Tethering rope, whip, quail chick. Let's go back to the picture. I'm gonna show you those glyphs. Now we're not gonna see the tethering rope because the picture is cropped. The tethering rope will be in front of the other figure that we're not seeing. This is the second figure. In front of him, we see the whip. See, that's the whip. The next glyph was the quail chick. See, the quail chick. And there you have it. So it'll be the tethering rope, the whip, and the quail chick. We just don't see the tethering rope because we don't see the other figure. All right. So once again, that's error number 3 on the website. And we have just corrected it. So all they have to do is, for this caption, they need to change Asiatics to the word Libyans. And then on the Asiatic picture, they need to change the word Libyans to Asiatics. And then on the first one, what they have Nubians, they need to change that to Egyptians. Or if they want to emphasize Nubians, they need to swap the picture. And same is true for all 3 errors. Either they could swap the pictures or they could change the caption. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The errors and their corrections. All right. So I think that was slowed down enough. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and see if anybody in the chat has any questions or want to come on the panel. All right. And I hope you all have some questions because I don't want this video to be long. I will allow this video to be as long as it is needed to, address any questions and comments. All right. So let me just bring back up the chat so I can check y'all out. And shout out to everybody who is watching the video. Shout out to everybody who's watching the video, and I really appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you all learned something. And if you haven't, come on the panel and let's chop it up. So I can see the chat now. I will give everybody a shout out, but man, you all have been definitely chatting away, and I can't scroll back, but so far.
Please pin the panel link on the top. I'll put the link. And while you do that, I think you wanted me to share the glyphs for the rematch because this is something I think will be beneficial to everyone, just to kind of see the glyphs on their own and how they're arranged on the what is it called, on the inscription.
All right. Okay. So let's do that. Here is the here are the glyphs. Here are the glyphs for the image, but I think we already covered that enough. Let me switch mine back. Right, so let me see. I'm gonna see if there's any questions here. Now I hope y'all have followed. If you didn't follow along, let me know that. All right, because the purpose of me doing this is to make sure that everybody walks away with a clear understanding. All right. And the thing is that I showed the website what they have, and I'm showing the tomb itself, because these are simply pictures that photographers took that the website are using. All right. And the error is a very simple one to fix. All they have to do is just change the caption or change the images. All right. So the image that you see on the screen, again here, are the first group. And I'm going to tell you that what I'm seeing in the circus community when people talk about this, they're making all kinds of mistakes, and the reason is very simple, because they do not study Egyptian culture or the language at all. And what I find in my experiences, because I've been teaching this for over a decade now. I've been teaching the language for over a decade, from the beginners to the grammar, morphology, syntax, you name it. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I've been studying it a lot longer, but I've been teaching it publicly for over 10 years now. And in my experience, people make, especially in the circus community, aka conscious community, people make these mistakes out of ignorance. They just don't study it and they don't know. And so what happens is people don't pay attention to the text, to the glyphs, and they only look at pictures, images, because they can't read this. So it just looks like pretty pictures. And so they ignore all of this stuff and they look at the figures, and then that's the focus. So everybody's talking about the image, but they're not reading the glyphs in between each image. These glyphs right here tell you who these four figures are supposed to represent. Remember, this text is the Book of Gates. The scribes didn't just drink some wine and hang out and just decide to come in this tomb and just decorate for art's sake. No, this is an actual text. This is an actual book. Obviously not in a traditional book that we format, but they call it the Book of Gates. It's a text. It says something. We can actually read this. As a matter of fact, you know, if y'all want me to, we can go over we can go over these lines above their heads to put icing, sprinkles, chocolate, caramel, everything on top of the cake. If y'all would like me to. So y'all let me know in the chat if y'all want to take time out to do that. But my point here is that this text is very explicit in what it's saying. It's telling you who the first group of four are, the second group, the third group, the fourth group. The first group is always the Ramech, which are the Egyptians. Now, someone is going around saying that the Book of Gates only has 3 groups. But as I showed you all, no scholar ever says that. Whoever is saying there's only 3, ask them to show you any scholar. I don't care if it's an amateur or professional. Not even the amateurs are saying that. Why? Because when you look at the tomb, it's always 4. The text always mention 4. And it goes with the cultural ideology about the Egyptians being in the center. That's 1. And then the 3 groups around them, representing the cardinal points. The Nehisu are the south. The Amu are east, Iabet east. And to the west are the Chemehu or Libyans, with the Egyptians in the middle. They didn't worry about what's behind them, or what we call north. They didn't worry about that. They had themselves and then their 3 prominent neighbors. So it's 4, not 3. All right. The Egyptians are always living first. And then how do we know that? Is now in this picture, you can't see all of the text, right? So if I were to switch over to this picture, you see more of the text. If I pull this down, look at all this text up here. See, people don't bother to read. This is all the parts of the Book of Gates here. Look in between these figures. This is spelling something. This is saying something. All right. And you can see the figures here. All right. So I hope you all see this, and we see text here. We see words in between the figures here, or glyphs in between the figures that are spelling words. This is no different than in a book when you say you got a paragraph of text, and then you say, well, see figure 2 for more detail. And then as you read the paragraph, you turn the page so you can see figure 2. That's what these are called, vignettes. These are figures within the text to illustrate. These are illustrated aspects of what you're reading. So if you ever want to know what these people are doing, why they're bent over, why they got their hands stretched out, just read the text. We see the word dua here. We see the word mdw here. We can actually read this. So back down to this portion, you see the text all above their head here. All right. So you all let me know if y'all want to go over it. We can start over here where it actually starts. It starts at this side over here, further back. The first figure in this line is the deity Heru. You just can't see it because the picture's cropped. Heru will be way over here. There's another of these 4. You only see 3 of these, but it's a 4th figure there, and then before that 4th figure is a single figure of Heru. And I'm going to show you what Heru looks like, but I have to go to another tomb because this image is from tomb of Ramses III. I'm going to go show you another tomb, same text. All right, we're going to go to the tomb of Seti I, and I'm going to show you the same order. And here we are. Let's make this big. You see that? Heru is first. You see Heru standing there? Then in front of him, you have 4 figures that are identical. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one, the paint is faded, obviously, because these tombs and sarcophagi are very, very old, as everybody should know. They're thousands of years old, and it's but so much damage that they're gonna or preservation is gonna be. But we have Heru is first. This is where this 5th hour portion begins. Okay, and it goes from here, and it goes in this direction as you read column wise. Now, as a FYI, everyone who is a student of the language knows that you read into the glyphs. So you always face the glyphs. So you read into the glyphs. So within the column, you always read into the glyphs no matter what. But the columns themselves are what we call columnar retrograde, which means the columns are going in the opposite direction, but the glyphs, you're always going to read into them. So this is column 1. This is column 2. But while you're in column 1, you're going to read from right to left, right to left, right to left, right to left, right to left. Column 2, right to left, right to left, right to left. But you're going to move to the right. This is retrograde. And retrograde scripts, text are usually done for a reason in retrograde, because they want the reader to travel around the tomb in a certain direction. Same thing happens in the Book of the Dead. Not everywhere in the Book of the Dead, but in certain parts of the Book of the Dead, it's also in retrograde direction. For instance, when in the Book of the Dead of Annie, when Annie's body is a funerary procession where his body is taken from his house of residence to his tomb, that's a parade, that's a procession. And the text goes in the direction of the procession, which is from left to right. So they want the reader to travel with him in his procession. Same thing in the Book of Gates. They want you to travel from this gate. See, it's the Book of Gates. Guess what? Let me shrink this picture. Here's the gate. The gate is this red rectangle with the hinge. That's a door or gate, and is guarded by a deity, a serpent deity right here. You see the serpent deity? It's being guarded and you have to travel through the gate and get into the next division or hour of the book. Then you keep traveling in this direction. I got the arrow pointing this way. You travel in this direction, go around down this wall, and you're going to hit another gate. There's 12. That's why it's called the Book of Gates. All right. So that's the gate. But anyway, just showing you all that first group is always the Remech. Now, what I want to show you all is something that I brought up last night, and right now I can't see the chat, so pardon me. I'm gonna look back at the chat to see if anybody has any questions again. But something that I want to mention is, now remember, I mentioned all of the tombs that it's in. It's in the tomb of Horemheb, Ramses I, Seti I, Ramses II, Merneptah, the Osirian, Seti II, Sipatah, Taweseret, Seth-Nakhet, Ramses III, Ramses IV, Ramses VI, Ramses VII, and Ramses IX. That's where this Book of Gates is located. Now, if you go tomb hopping and you go from one tomb to the next, any of these tombs that I mentioned, if it has the vignettes or illustrated portion of the fifth hour, it's going to show the exact same order. The Egyptians first, the Amu or Asiatic second. Let me say the Egyptian words. Number 1 is the Remech, 2 is the Amu, 3 is the Nehesiu, 4 is the Chemehu. In English, what we translate those to: 1 Egyptians, 2 Asiatics, 3 Nubians, 4 Libyans. Always in that order. Now, if you were to tomb hop, the Libyans in, let's say, the tomb of Seti I are going to look different than the Libyans in the tomb of Ramses III or Ramses IV, and so on and so forth. So from tomb to tomb, the same grouping is going to look different from each other. But within the same tomb, they're supposed to be distinguished. The 4 groups are supposed to be distinguished from one another. So in the tomb of Ramses III, this is what people who don't study this are aware of. The tomb of Ramses III is the only tomb and the only place in all of Egypt, for all of Egypt's history, where the Egyptians broke away from their canon and standard of distinguishing themselves visually from their neighbors. So I'm going to repeat that. The tomb of Ramses III, which is the tomb we were just looking at, this is the only place in Egyptian history where the scribes broke away from their scribal canon tradition and standard of visually distinguishing the Egyptians from all of their neighbors. And so all the scholars who actually write on this and study this and are specialized in the Book of Gates, they label the tomb of Ramses III as an anomaly. And the word anomaly simply means something outside of expectations, or something that is unexpected, or a break from tradition or standard. And that's exactly what it is. And so when the Egyptians speak of themselves and their neighbors, the Egyptians have always visually distinguished themselves from everybody else. The tomb of Ramses III, they didn't do that. They made themselves look identical to the Nubians. So I repeat. Matter of fact, let me show you a drawing from Carl Lepsius' work. This is a reproduction. Okay, this is a reproduction. Carl Lepsius redrew one figure from each of the 4 groups in the tomb of Ramses III. And I want you to notice the anomaly that scholars call it. Everywhere else in all of Egypt's history, whenever the Egyptians are visually paired up with other groups of people, they always made themselves stick out differently than the rest. But in the tomb of Ramses III, they broke from that tradition. And this is the only time they did that. And where they made themselves, which is the Remech right here, this figure, and the Nehisiu, this figure, they made them look alike. So y'all follow that? And let's go in the tomb, and I'll show you again. Here are the Remech, see, the Egyptians. These are supposed to be the Egyptians now. But the scribes made them, the Egyptians, the Remech, look identical. Now look at these four, and I'm going to show you the Nehisiu. Here are the Nehisiu, the four. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're identical. They're identical. But in between these figures, it spells Nehisiu. In between these figures, it spells Remech. So you have 8 figures that look alike. And I hope everybody gets that. If you don't get that, then I don't know how I can help. And it's really a comprehension issue at that point. All right, so now I'm going to take some questions. I see we had Brother Sadiq popped up in here. Welcome.
Hotep.
Hotep.
Hotep to the panel. Hotep to the chat. Just wanted to see if I can share some work. I don't know if you got a lot of time though.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just cover this image here that I have on screen. I need to come back to this. This is the word Remech in a column instead of in a row. As you all should know, that the scribes wrote the glyphs either in columns or rows. And in the tomb of Ramses III, as you can see here, where's my cursor at? You see the open mouth, the tethering rope, the kneeling man with the arm stretched, the seated deity in this case, and 3 strokes. So when you look at it in column form, this is what you're looking at: open mouth, tethering rope, seated kneeling man with the arm stretched, seated woman, and the 3 strokes. In Ramses III, the seated woman is replaced by a seated deity with a curved beard. But everywhere else, it's the seated woman. All right. Matter of fact, demonstration beats conversation. So let me prove that to you. Let me show you, because I don't want to leave anything to chance for people to question or whatever. So remember what I said. In the tomb of Ramses III, that seated woman is replaced with a seated deity with a curved beard. Okay, and that's what you see right here, the seated deity with a curved beard. But I'm gonna show you the tomb of Seti the First, where it's actually a woman, and we're gonna blow this up so you can see it very good right here. All right, so we see the R, or the open mouth, tethering rope, seated kneeling man with a hand extended, seated woman. If you don't believe me, same word is up here, just like another tomb. Open mouth, tethering rope, kneeling man with the head arm extended, seated woman, 3 strokes. Seated woman, 3 strokes. That collectively spells the word Remech. This up here is the word Remech. These 4 figures right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, are the Remech. Why are they the Remech? Because it tells you the Remech. All right. These figures right here are also the Remech. Why are they the Remech, Wajao? Because it tells you the Remech. The authority here are the Egyptians. They're telling you these 4 figures are representative of the Remech. How do we know? Because they tell you the word Remech is right here in between them. These 4 figures over here are representations of the Nubians. How do you know that, Wajao? Because the Egyptians tell us it's the word Nehisiu in between those figures. And if you don't believe me that there's 8 that look identical, 1, 2, 3, 4 for Nubians, look over here on this other wall. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is cut out. It's cut off from the crop of the picture. But these are 4, and here are 4. And they all 4 or all 8 look identical. But this 4 is labeled Nubians or Nehisiu. This 4 is labeled Remech or Egyptians. that is the solution to the issue, and hopefully that clears everything up. All right. But
Um,
yeah,
yeah. Speaking of that, yeah. So I just wanted to show how it would look like with the seated deity, and also the one that they had with the figures on it. So that's the one with the seated deity, and then this is how it was showing, I think, on your other figure. So if people wanted to see it a little bit more clear with the figure standing there, and this will still be the one for the rematch.
okay, excellent. So hopefully y'all get that. You got figure one, and then you have two glyphs. Figure two, the glyph with the man with the extended arm. Figure three, the seated deity with the curved royal beard. Figure four, and then the three strokes in front of it. Y'all follow that? And so let me show you all that over here one more time. You got figure, use this arrow. Figure one, two glyphs. Figure two, the stylized man with the extended arm. Figure three, the deity with the curved royal beard. Figure four, three strokes. All right. So this is simple. This is not rocket science, y'all. And I'm trying to do this in a way where I don't have to give a whole class on Sesh, Medew, Netcher, and Ronnie Kemet grammar and this, that, and the third. But yeah. So I'm gonna open it. Go ahead and open it up. And so Brother Sadiq.
Yeah. Just wonder how much time you have.
Wait, hold up.
Okay.
Whatever you're doing with your, it sounds like your mouth is in your chest. I mean, your mic is in your chest. You gotta take the mic away from your mouth.
Sorry about that. Is it better now?
A little bit, yeah.
But
Or just you turn it down a little bit. I
let me
think.
turn it down. Let me see. How about now?
Yeah. There you go. I don't know what you had
I'm
going
back,
on before.
I backed it away a little bit. Or let me lower the volume. Is it better?
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Great.
So just want to know how much time you had. I wanted to go over some work with you.
Okay, well, about what? Cause I want to give, because we got Chris in here, we got the brother Chavis in here. I don't want to deviate from what I demonstrated. If it's along the same lines, then cool. There's no problem.
No, let the brothers go ahead because this one is this is long.
Okay, all right. So yeah, all right. Just put a pin in it for a second. Then we'll come back to it. All right. Hey, peace to the brother Chavis. Peace to the brother Chris. ATM Hotep.
What's up with y'all?
All right. So I hope I was clear. I hope everybody followed. And let me actually catch up in the chat, man. I apologize for not paying attention to the chat, but just so you all know, in the chat, the way that we present and do things on the channel is that we encourage interaction. I want the interaction, the mature quality interaction, conversations, the sharing of information, and we welcome correction, we welcome critique, we welcome questions and all that good stuff. But we share information, we correct things, we teach, and we do all that. But while I'm presenting or sharing information, I make it I make sure that I don't pay attention to the chat. All right. So I know that the chat can have a life of its own. People be chatting and going back and forth, and I see other channels and it becomes a mess. Now, not here though. I'm not saying it happens here, but just so you all know, and just be aware that I don't pay attention to the chat while I'm in the middle of explaining something. So if you have questions for me and trying to get my attention, hold them. Make sure you write them down. That's why I would tell people when you come to this channel, have a pen and pad. You know what I'm saying? Or open up on your computer, open up Text Edit or Notepad. Everybody got a Windows PC or a Mac. Open it up. Just type your question so you remember it. I don't want anybody to lose their thoughts or anything like that, because the goal here is education. We want everybody to actually Shem Imhotep, which means leave and be satisfied. Like when we finish, you should have learned something or been refreshed about something, or at least been pointed in the direction where you can do further research. All right, and we like to have fun too. So bring the fun or humor, but we like to get busy over here. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna open it up. So got Brother Zane chimed in. So Chavis, so Chris, y'all did y'all have anything you wanted to ask or share or anything?
Yeah, if I could go real quick, I would think maybe it might help. I guess, like, is there any other inscription where Ramesh is being used in like a super broad and general context, or is it always every time the word is used, it's in a specific context, speaking about specific? I think I know the answer, but I think it might help to clarify even more.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. And all right, so let me, because while I answer things, I always like to show, demonstrate and show something. Let me see if I have what I had before, because I went over that before, but I don't have it handy. So let me just put the word up so everybody can at least see the word we're talking about. So this is the word remech. This is the most prolific way that you'll see this word spelled in the glyphs. The first glyph, get my arrow. Just got to break it down. All right, the first glyph, you're going to read these glyphs from right to left because the glyphs are facing to the right, and you always read into them, okay? The first glyph you come to is the mouth. Second glyph is the tethering rope. Third glyph is the kneeling man with the arm extended. Fourth glyph is the seated woman. And the fifth glyph are 3 strokes. This spells the word remech. All right. Now, someone had asked a good question when I went over this before. They said, well, where's the M? Where's the glyph that represents M? Because this glyph is transliterated as an R. This glyph is transliterated as TCH. And we pronounce it like the CH in church. So we say remech. But they say, well, where's the M? And these two glyphs are determined. These glyphs are determinatives. We don't pronounce them or transliterate them. But they say, where's the M? And so I showed everyone instances where the owl glyph or the M is there, but the scribes chose to omit the bird because of its unsightly nature. It disrupts the aesthetic, the pleasing aesthetic look that this gives. It's like, see that this is a nice rectangle? So they don't put the bird here because the bird would disrupt this beauty right here, in a nutshell. So anyway, so back to your point though, Chavis, is the word remech literally means people, human beings, or mankind. So it's in and of itself is talking about humanity. All right, known humanity to the group of people who are using the word. So it's an Egyptian word. To the Egyptians, the word remech meant human beings, humanity. That's what it literally means, people. All right. Now, whenever you see the word, whenever the Egyptians had a need to do a compare and contrast with other groups of people, they always refer to themselves as the remech and other people as something else. Okay, so 2 things. The word remech in its general sense means people, but then in the narrow sense, it's always used for the Egyptians themselves whenever they compare themselves to other people. So here's the perfect example. Let's go to what I was sharing. In the 5th hour of the Book of Gates, we are looking at an instance where the Egyptians are comparing themselves or distinguishing themselves from 3 other groups of people. And whenever they do this, no matter what text you look at, they always refer to themselves as the remech. As you can see right here. Where's my arrow? The remech. And then they always call other groups by other names that are attributes or properties or descriptions of them. So the Amu, now we translate this word as Asiatics, but the word Amu is a word that is describing a group of people who are vagabonds, who are nomads, non-sedentary type people. Okay, now we translate that as Asiatics, and people know that these are West Asians, people coming from the Levant area. Okay, this represents the East. The Nehisiu are people like to call them Nubians, and that in and of itself is a big mess and confusion, which is why I don't use that word. They're actually the Nehisiu, and I stick to what the Egyptians call them, which is a large group of people who live south of Egypt. So the Nehisiu represents everybody who lives south of Egypt. The Amu represent people who live east of Egypt. And then you have the Chemehu, it's everybody who, or their neighbors who live west of them. So you got west, south, east, and then the Egyptians themselves that are in the center of their own world. And how do we know that the Egyptians saw themselves as the center of their conceived or perceived world? Is because the name of Egypt prior to it becoming called Kemet was Khenu. And the word Khenu means the interior, the inner parts. That's what it means. It means the interior. And so it was the interior-most part of their perceived world. And they were the center. Then you have the cardinal points. They ignored the north, by the way. So this is east, south, and west. Now, I'm gonna share something that I'm not sure if too many people are familiar with this, and you may be hearing this for the first time or not. I'm not the first person that says this, but notice what I just said. The Remech are Egyptocentric, which means they are the center of everything to themselves. The Egyptians saw themselves as the center of everything. They saw themselves as better than everybody else as well. Just like every culture does. What culture on the planet don't have pride in their, in their own, group? Well, the Egyptians are no different. They were the center of everything. And then everybody around them, they dealt with accordingly. But now here's the thing. To the east of them, which is on their left-hand side, their neighbors were the Amu. To the south of them, which is in front of them, their neighbors are the Nehisiu. To the right of them, or the west, which is on the right-hand side of them, their neighbors were the Libyans. Now, I want y'all to notice something. They did not include a group to represent the north, which would be to their back, which would be behind them. All right? Here's why. Because the sun does not shine in the north. There's no light in the north. Now, I don't mean that literally. We know there's sun in the northern hemisphere of the planet, but there's no light in the north. Now, for those people, males who are traveling men, those Freemasons out there, if anybody who's listening to me is a fellow traveling man, you'll know in the lodge there is no light in the north. And the reason is because the path of the sun rises where? As the sun rises in the east, so shall the worshipful master boom, 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 and sets in the west. So the sun, there in the center, the sun rises in the east, it travels and pans this way, and it comes back and sets down in the west. But there's no light in the north. All right. So these four groups are the Egyptians themselves, the Amu, the Nehisiu, and the Chemehu. And this is in the underworld in the Book of Gates, the 5th hour to be more specific. And like I said, we could do a whole series of shows to talk about the contents of the Book of Gates. If y'all are interested in that type of information, I have no problem chopping it up with whoever wants to listen in and participate. We can really get down and know what this book is all about. Don't let the pseudos out there fool you. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe and let people think it's all spooky and this, that, and the third. Nah. We don't do pseudo over here. We are totally anti-pseudo. But we're going to break things down. So anyway, so Chavis, I'm sorry, to go back to your question though, the remech, the word itself is used in many, many texts in the context of human beings in general, for men. But in most instances, they're only talking about the Egyptians, the Egyptian themselves. But more specifically, whenever the Egyptians are comparing themselves to other groups of people, other ethnicities, other nationalities, and stuff like that, they definitely always took on the word remech. So just to let me just do this real quick, because I like to be as thorough as possible. Let me show that. Where can I put it? All right, let me just put it here. Here's the layout. So you have the remech, which is a generalized term for mankind, human beings. Then you have remech being used, so let me just put general. Then you have remech whenever they need to distinguish is the Egyptians via distinction. Okay. So it's used for the Egyptians only when they need to distinguish. Now, among the remech, they have a class system, a hierarchy. And in this hierarchy, you have, I'm just going to introduce some words to you all. We could talk about it later. We have what's called pat. These will be your elite. All right. Then beneath that, you have your rakit. These are your ordinary, you're basically your ordinary citizens, your ordinary folks. And the way the scholars translate that word is subjects of the king. Okay, rakit. So the society was layered. All right, you got and then there's other layers in here. You got the emirah, which are overseers. You got people who have positions and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not getting into that, but I'm talking about just the general population. So the Egyptian population was called remech. That was their national name. But then among them, they had the elite, and then they had the ordinary folks called rakit. All right, so I know you didn't ask me that, but I'm just sharing all that with you.
No, it's still good information. I didn't know that. I know nobody else know it either.
All right, so hopefully everybody follows that. All right, so was there anything else?
No, that's it for me. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. So what's up, Chris? You had something? Oh, I see we got Mika in the house. Let me add her in. Oh, and Cito. So peace to everybody joining in. Sorry about the late admission. I didn't see y'all. So the mic is open. So whoever's on the panel, if you have a question, comment, critique, whatever, bring it.
Yeah, may I?
Yep.
Yeah. I heard you mention about taking other scenes from the Amduat and going through them. I think that'd probably be I'd like to be a part of that too. That'd be a good thing to do.
Okay, but that's the Book of Gates we were just doing.
My bad. Gates, right? Yeah.
All right. Well, we could do that, but I would like to do a series because that's a lot of things to cover. We would have to do a series of live streams for that. But yeah, so that's the plan. So the more people want to participate, let's get it going. Let's get it going. I would prefer people to come and participate with some foundation under their belt first, though, because listen, the Book of Gates. See, the Egyptian, and this is another thing. Ancient Egypt is grossly taken for granted in the circus community, and for all y'all who are not familiar with me saying circus community, I refer to the conscious community as circus community. That's just my stance on it. But the conscious community, I think a lot of people take it for granted, take Egypt for granted, and they don't give Egypt its respect due to it. Now, granted, it's a lot of romanticism floating around, a lot of commercialization floating around, but even when people talk about it, people seem to sun it as they call it. You know, they'd be sunning Egypt and putting it down and taking it for granted. But the study of Egypt and the culture is just as intense and complex as if you were studying chemistry, physics, and any other discipline out there. So you can't microwave it. And so people like to talk about it, but don't put any work into it. And what's crazy to me is that nobody does that to chemistry. Nobody really does that to medicine or physics, astrophysics, engineering. You don't see conversations where people are microwaving those subjects. But when it comes to Egypt, people microwave it to death. They open that microwave oven and put it on popcorn setting. 2 minutes. You think people actually think they're going to explain the Egyptian text in 2 minutes or explain some aspects of Egyptian culture in 2 minutes or whatever? No. You're not going to do that. You can't do that. And so I say that to say that I would love to have a conversation about the Book of Gates or the Amduat or the Book of Caverns or the Book of Earth, all these underworld texts. I would love to do that. But a lot of people are not prepared to have those conversations. And I'm not saying it as a negative thing at all. It's just, that's just true. Because in order to talk about it, you gotta have some fun, you gotta have some foundational things under your belt. It's like trying to talk about calculus to a person who hasn't mastered addition and subtraction and multiplication first. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how a lot of the Egyptian texts are. Even the Book of Dead. The Book of Dead is popular, so people talk about it, but you really need to know a lot of stuff before you can really get into that book. Otherwise, you're gonna look at it as some crazy spooky book that was buried with dead people. You're like, what is a dead person gonna do with a book? If dead people can't read, you know, so people don't really understand it. And it's not just Egypt. It's all across the board. A lot of African traditions people get into it. You know, they try to microwave it. Like people don't even really know. Like people are into ancestral veneration, but then you ask them, well, what is an ancestor made of? Because we know what human beings are made of. We're made of certain substances. We got cells in our body. We got fluids in our body. We got organs, systems in our body, this, that, and the third. We breathe. You know, we know a bit about the human anatomy. And we know what separates one human from another. There's a demarcation. Our skin. We demark, like if you stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder next to somebody, I can distinguish person A from person B. But now let's have that same conversation about ancestors. What distinguishes one ancestor from the other for real? Is there a border? Is there an entity with its boundary? Where does one ancestor end and another one begin? Are they in a shell, a casing? Like what keeps it separate? Or is it just one blob where all the ancestors are just one Guga blob existing somewhere? Now that may sound silly, but that's a serious issue or question to address. And people can't do it. Why? Because they have a wrong impression of what an ancestor is, or what an ancestor is made of, or what a spirit is. Spirits are energy. Well, if you say spirits are energy, you treat energy like it's an entity, and it's not. It's a measurement. Is height an entity? No. Your height is a property of you. It's a measurement. It's not an entity. That's the same thing for energy. So if you say spirits are energy, then it's a measurement, because energy is a measurement. It's given in units of joules, or inside the body is given in units of calories. But it's a measurement. In order to measure something, it has to be material. It has to be made of matter. Energy is a property of matter. So therefore, if a spirit is energy and energy is a property of matter, then you need matter. So there's no such thing as an immaterial spirit. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I don't want to get off on that, but see, Chris, what you started.
Yeah, my bad.
But anyway, I guess my whole point though is that people really need to approach Egypt with some respect and some discipline, and strap in. Just strap in. When you get your car, you put your seatbelt on. Well, guess what? You get into the vehicle of Egyptology, or whatever. Strap in. Get comfortable. Don't try to microwave it. That's my recommendation, because if you come around me microwaving Egypt, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good, because I don't bite my tongue when it comes to that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how beloved you are. One thing I don't do, I don't disrespect people, and I don't call people out their name or any of that foolishness, but I definitely address elephants in the room with respect, though, and with the intention of making us all become excellent. That's my intention. And I'll say this, for example, the brother Jabari. I've never met the brother, but I think the brother is very sincere in things he does. He and his wife are they run the Shrine of Ma'at, and they have a structure. They have people that depend on them and everything like that, and that is beautiful. To give service to your community and to your fellow brothers and sisters. So that's all beautiful, and we need to applaud all of that, right? We need to encourage that and applaud that. But one thing that Jabari makes a mistake on, that I have addressed already many times, not specific to him though, is the use of the word Tamahu, the Egyptian word Tamahu, to mean Europeans or white people. That word does not mean that. It never does. It never did, and it should never mean that, unless people just making up stuff. And it's a mix-up, and it needs to be corrected. Because we need to move towards accuracy, right? Things that are all what's right in this act: truth, accuracy, correctness, excellence, and but he still uses it. And I'm only bringing him up because of what I said. Like, I address elephants in the room, and I address things, but with respect. So I have respect for the brother Jabari, and I like what he's doing, him and his wife, and the whole team, the whole shrine of what they're doing. Because anytime you can bring people together, and you're making progress, and you're helping people, and this and that, for whatever the reason is, it's always a good thing. But on the particulars, that's one thing that I noticed with that came across my radar. I was like, well, wait a minute. That's not true. The word Tamahu is not even Tamahu. Tamahu is what people are saying. Tamahu is one. It could be one of two words. Tamehu, which is the north of Egypt. The northern part of Egypt, which is Lower Egypt. So the people who live there, they're Egyptians. So to say Tamahu means white people, in essence, they're saying that the people who lived in Lower Egypt were white. And that's not true. They were Egyptians. That's number one. Number two, it could be Chemehu, which is a word for the Libyans. One of the two groups of Libyans. Libya was divided into two major groups of people: the Chemehu and the Chehinu. The Chemehu are one portion of Libyans, and the Chehinu are the other portion, and they're not white. So no matter which way you go, whether it's Tamehu, which is the northern Egypt or Lower Egyptians, or Chemehu or Chehinu, is none of them are Europeans or white. So if y'all didn't know that, now you do. I did a whole video on it, so it's in the archives. Y'all can check it out. But stuff like that. So I'm just saying that these are things that we gotta do and get past. So anyway, Mika, you got anything?
Mic check. Can I be heard?
Yep. Okay.
Yay. Well, I was just hoping Chief X would have hit that link, but I think he's a coward, so I'm just listening.
Okay. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Chief X. I wrote. I don't. I don't. There's no help for Chief X. Last night when I saw him admit that he was on drugs and he stood up and showed his gun, it was shadow boxing stuff. I mean, that's somebody. That's anybody who takes him serious. I don't. I. I don't. That's not my cup of tea. That's not my crowd. So all of his fans on his channel and stuff like that, miss me with that. I don't get down like that. I don't see how people 50 years old and older, behave certain ways. I just don't. I didn't grow up like that. I'm not built that way. I'm just not.
We still blame y'all for rejecting him in the Amara squad. We still blame the Massey Warriors clan for rejecting him in the Massey because he's throwing a fit right now and everybody who rejected him.
For real.
Well, that's just too bad. So I don't pay him any mention. Like I said, I use issues for teaching moments like this. So, Cito, peace. I see. I only see your name as Cito. You there? All right, so I'm gonna go. So feel free, y'all can chime in anytime on the panel, but I'm gonna go through the chat because man, I've been neglecting the chat, and so if any of y'all had a question for me, please retype it. I'm looking through the chat now, but I can only scroll back for so far, so I'm gonna see if anything sticks out to me. And I'm going to showcase the questions as I walk my way down. So he says you have to be intelligent to read and comprehend the Medew Netcher. Yes, I mean, but that goes for anything. But yes, definitely, Zozer, you're right. You have to reading. See, when we say read, what's implicit in that is or implied in that is reading comprehension. Like we. Okay, Cito, I think he's trying
Oh,
to
y'all
talk
can
to
hear
you.
me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
You.
Go for it. You got the mic. Go ahead.
Oh, it's Aziz, by the way.
Okay. What's going on, Aziz?
Man, not too much, not too much. I got two questions for you,
Okay.
and it's Chedo, by the way. Chedo, like it's a well-off word. The C is really a ch sound.
Oh, like ch in church.
Yeah.
Okay, Chedo. All right, I remember that. I remember that.
But I was just gonna ask, are you in line with the idea that the terms for the nine bowls were like pejorative terms,
You mean the label of them,
like the
or
Temehu and the Nehesu were like, I've heard somewhere like those were pejorative terms and stuff like that. Or is that factual or is that just hearsay?
I okay, based on what I know at this point, I would say no. That's not the case. Like that's not a case that we could say just blanket like that
Mm,
because the Nahisiu are they describe them. They call them Beshtiu, which are rebellious ones and things like that. And so at different times, and I'm only using the Nahisi or Nubians as an example. At different times in Egyptian history, the Nahisiu blocked the Egyptians from their trading routes and trading networks.
mm-hmm.
And so the Egyptians were real pissed off at that and treated them like opposition and enemies, like
Right,
enemies of the state,
right. Up
and
the
they
money.
became exactly. And it cost them money too. They had to go around different trading routes. They had to find different routes to get to different parts of the South. So they saw them as rebellious. They saw them as all these other kind of adjectives that they use for them. But the word Nehisiu itself may not be pejorative.
Hmm.
So that's what I mean by that. And the same thing with Chemehu and Chehinu.
Cool. I just
Yeah.
wanted a little a little clarity on that. The other question I was gonna ask is, Is the tomb of Ramses III the only example where the Nehisu are dressed in that way?
Yeah, the tomb of Ramses III is known among all the scholars that study it as they call it an anomaly, only to mean that it breaks away from the other canon and tradition of visual representations.
Word.
So the Nubians and the Egyptians in that tomb and only that tomb, they look identical.
I got a theory on that, but I don't know if this is the best place for it or if we got enough time. But maybe I'll come back to it.
All right, well, we can come back to it if no, because look, if nobody else is speaking up, I do want to just kind of comb through some of these chat questions or comments real quick though.
No doubt, no doubt.
So yeah, so hold that thought, and then you got Sadiq who got like an hour commentary to
Right.
get.
Yep, it's about to get long.
All right. Let me just where was I? Okay, he said intelligent. All right. Let me see. I'm just trying to get through this chat because I don't want to leave anybody out. Normally the Seshu ignores drama queens. You must be special, right? So yeah, no holds barred. You hit it on the head. We normally, and see the thing is we don't add fuel to the fire. We don't give in to the drama, but we can take the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the drama and stuff, and we could create teaching moments out of it. That's why I don't go back and forth with people. So, nah, I mean that's like it's just that's like back in the day type stuff. Like you got to get older. Like people got to mature. They call themselves wretched. You're aware of that. Oh, or everybody, people having conversations in the chat. So let me skip that. Keep on going. Rawan Fall, is that you, Aziz? That's your
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay, all right, man. See, you gonna confuse some people. Boy, you got Aziz Fall, Rawan Fall, Cheto.
Right.
Man, next thing coming, Tony the Tiger. Goodness. All right.
Oh man.
Nah, okay. All right. Let me keep on going. Keep on going down. See if anybody.
I was saying it's definitely African with the many names.
Let's see.
Trying to step away from the Arabic, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, alhamdulillah. Mashallah.
Right.
All right, hold up. They got the most clothes on. They dress for Iceland. All right. I'm just trying to get some questions. But listen, peace to everybody who's tuned in. I really appreciate. Hit the link. Listen, if you want to be heard, hit the link. If you want to be seen, tag the name Seshu so it can stick out. So Hassan Anyab Wile, and I butchered your name. I know I did.
Anyabwile.
Oh, Anyabwile. All right, nice. I bet you he don't even pronounce it like that. Now let me stop. Okay, so it says, so it seems as if there are two types of image. The one we most times, tall, dark, brown, red, and these four that are similar with the Nisu, or am I bugging out? Okay, so Hassan, always keep this in mind. This is for everybody. Always keep this in mind. The ancient Egyptian population was pretty big. Like it wasn't like all ancient Egypt was only like 2,000 people. It was a lot of people in ancient Egypt. Okay, not as big as our modern times, in different countries or states and stuff like that. But it was a lot of people. And so what the ancient Egyptians did was that they created a caricature representation of themselves. So they chose a certain look that they wanted to use to represent themselves to the world as distinguished from everybody else. And everybody else they created caricatures for. So they took things they focused on in their culture and different items, and they blended that together to create this look that will represent themselves. We call that, caricature or stereotypic, artistic stereotypes. And that's what they did for different groups of people that they came to know. So you got the Amu, you got all kinds of people. I got a whole list. You got the Canaanites or Kaanu, you got the Yam folks, you got the Magi, all these other different people that they knew about, the branches, the different tribes of Libyans, and they created characters for these. So when we get into look or lookership part of it, we got to be careful. One thing the Egyptians were throughout the whole 3,000 years, they tended to stick closely to a standard and canon. They deviated a little bit, but pretty much they kind of remained the same for everybody. For everybody. Now, to your question though, only in the tomb of Ramses III did they break that tradition. It's only in the tomb of Ramses III. And somebody can do me a favor and look up exactly the date for Ramses III. Because I just want to pin him on a timeline. But only in this tomb and only in this period of Egyptian history, of all of its existence, did the Egyptians break the visual canon and drew or carved themselves to look just like the Nubians, and vice versa. Everywhere else, they're distinguished from one another. Okay, and so hopefully that clears it up for you.
You got an answer for the 20th dynasty.
Okay, 20th dynasty, great. So Ramses III is around the 20th dynasty. And so now what scholars are doing, and it's the thing, there's a lot of scholarship about this. People who study the tomb of Ramses III and that the Ramesside period, they are hypothesizing on why that is though, why that occurred at that time. And I think that's what Cheto was speaking of a bit as well. But scholars are speculating on why that is for that particular tomb, only that tomb. So anyway, and hopefully that helped you out, Hassan. Let's see if anybody. I'm just going down the list. Okay, Victor Thomas. I like to hear about the teaching of the ritual of Sekhmet. Okay. Which ritual? Which ritual? Because Sekhmet is the patron deity over healing and medicine and disease and destruction in the form of diseases and things like that. Pathogens, what we now call pathogens. They didn't use the word pathogen, but diseases and things like that. So Sekhmet, so you gotta kind of be a little bit more detailed with what you're saying. The ritual of Sekhmet. And you know what's interesting? Hold up, I'm glad you mentioned it, Sekhmet. Boy, hold up. Let me do this. Yeah, let me do this real quick. Cause I needed an excuse to talk about some of the glyphs above these folks' heads, cause nobody bit the bait on that. Let me do this if I can. Hold up. I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna show the glyphs, and I'm gonna share my screen, and I want to show you. Where we at? Is it here? Yeah. All right. Reshare my screen, and y'all, I can't stand the silence. All right. So here we go. So I'm gonna go back to. We're gonna go back to the text, right? And right here. Okay, so now This okay. So let me just give y'all a little context of this. Right. This is a reproduction from the tomb of Seti the First. This image as reproduced is not in the tomb this exact same way. Right here, where my cursor is, there's a 90-degree corner in the tomb. So all these figures right here are on an adjacent wall. All the figures on this side are on the other wall, and they're 90 degrees to each other. All right. So just keep in mind there's a corner right here. Matter of fact, let me just show you the tomb. Right here. So you see that corner? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 figures. Oh, if you're gonna add Heru, there's 7 figures. So Heru and then 6 figures and then the corner. And then the other figures there. Okay. So to go back to the picture, I was just sharing. So we got Heru and 6 figures, and then that's the corner. All right. So I'm just letting y'all know that that's where we are in the tomb. Now the text is above their head, and as we can see it in the tomb, we see it all the text above their head. It goes around. Now, so what I'm going to show is the reproduction of it, because I don't want to keep switching back and forth from the tomb, and then this part is cut off, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to show you the reproduction of it. And so here's the text above their head. And so I'm going to point out, I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to point out because the brother mentioned Sekhmet. And so I'm going to show you where Sekhmet is mentioned in the text. Matter of fact, we're gonna test everybody out. I want somebody else to point out. Let me zoom in. Okay, so here's the first half, the first portion, and I want either anybody on the panel or anybody in the chat to point to me. Matter of fact, let me finish number these columns. Matter of fact, you can call off the number of the column where you see Sekhmet's name. That's what we're gonna do. See, if y'all didn't know anything about the Seshu channel, yeah, we about to put you to work. Y'all gonna learn something. Y'all gonna learn something today. All right,
I'm gonna wait. 16. I see it. I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, I already see. Well, I'll be quiet.
Okay, yeah, y'all cheat, man. Y'all probably know. Don't answer too fast. Okay, so I'm numbering the columns. I'm gonna give other people a shot at it. Okay, so these are 18 columns. So what I want the chat to do is to call off the column number where you suspect the name Sekhmet to be. And by chance, if the name is split between columns, give me both numbers. All right, so that's the challenge to the chat right now. And I know that there's a delay, so let me we can kind of chit chat for a minute and see what they. Damo got 17. See, Damo quick draw. All right, Damo has 17 on the screen. So anybody in the chat, do you agree, disagree, or you got to add to it, or what? Y'all let me know. All right, Zane says 18.
Got to add to it.
Boy, Zane. Watch. What Zane gonna do, he's gonna go backwards on number. He's gonna start with 18, he's gonna say 17, 16, 15, until he covers all the numbers. All right, we have Zoza says 17. All right, we got 2 17. Zane says 18. Who else? I don't want to take too much time. I just give you all a shot. Give you all a shot to point out Sekhmet. All right, Sadiq says 16 and 17. All right, who agrees with Sadiq? Who in the chat agrees with Sadiq? Just give me the same numbers. Give me same numbers. If you agree. All right, I'm gonna wait for one more person to answer. Then I'll just show you. One more person. Anybody watching? I know people who may be watching this channel for the first time. They like, man, those dudes over there, boy, they be putting you to work, man. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm coming back to this channel. I'm gonna unsubscribe. They be giving you homework. They be giving you homework on this channel. All right, Victor Thomas says number 4. Okay. All right, so that's the next answer I was waiting on. Okay, so let me just show you all and tell you all. All right, and I'm only doing this because the brother Victor brought up Sekhmet, and I needed any excuse to kind of go over some of these glyphs with y'all. All right, but it's interesting. This is interesting. You know, the text is interesting. All right. Anyway, so 16 and 17 is correct. All right, 16 and 17 is correct. Okay, and so it starts at the bottom of 16 where you see the triliteral glyph. And by triliteral, I mean a glyph that represents 3 consonants, and we transliterate it with 3 consonants. We have the word Sekhem here, and then the phonetic complement and T. So Sekhem. Some people will pronounce her name Sekhemt, and we traditionally, ordinarily say Sekhmet. So Sekhem and then et, Sekhemet or Sekhmet. And then you see her, which is a seated lioness deity with the sun disk above her head. Now I know this is maybe a little blurry on the screen, but that's her as a determinative. That's the deity as a determinative of her name. So you have Sekhmet. So it's the bottom of 16 and at the top of 17. All right. But now, so what does Sekhmet have to do with the Book of Gates and these 16 figures in the Book of Gates? Well, let's read it. First of all, well, let's go back. I gotta go back a little bit. I'm gonna point out in column 13 we have the word remech here. Okay, the word remech. And without getting too much details, let me just put y'all up onto something about the Book of Gates. In this scene right here, we have a clear example of the Egyptians' intentional methods of paronymy and punning. And so the Egyptians are telling us how they viewed the names of these 4 groups of people. And they're using associations. So for example, the name for themselves, which is Remech in column 13, it is derived from, and I don't mean a literal derivation or etymology, but this is figurative etymology at work. So the name Remech, which means people, in this case the Egyptians themselves, it comes from the conceptual etymology of the word remich in column 11. So it's from the remich, or the tears. The word remich means the tears. So it's from the tears of my brilliant eye. See, it says the word here in the bottom of column 11 and column 12. From the tears of my brilliant eye, in you all's name, Renchen, in you all's name of the Remech. So it's from, you get Remich to Remech. Remich is the tears from the god or Ra, and then you get Remech. All right, so having explained that, now we're going to go over to Sekhmet. So remember, the Remech are first. So that's the explanation of their name. The next explanation is going to be about the Amu. So below this, you have the word Amu right here. And how the word Amu comes about is a play on the 2 words A and Mu. The word A means great or big, and Mu means water. So it's from the great waters that we have Amu, the sand dwellers, the vagabonds, the desert nomads. Okay? And we see that here. So we see the name Amu. Now, what's interesting is that after the mention of the word Amu, we have come into existence. We have Keper in Sin. They came into existence, or came into existence, Sekhmet. So she came into existence Ni Sin, which is for them. So it literally says, into existence comes Sekhmet for them. And what does she do? She protects their soul. Ba. See this word ba in the top of 18? That's the word ba'u. The plural form of the word ba, ba'u. Their souls or spirits. So that's the role of Sekhmet in this particular text. She is protecting their souls. So I forgot who asked me earlier about the 9 bows and stuff like that. So if the Amu and the name was pejorative, the Egyptians don't say that that's the case, because they say the name comes figuratively from great waters, Ah and Mu, together. And then on top of that, they got Sekhmet protecting them. Sekhmet is protecting them, etc. And then you get to Nehisiu. So let me go over here. So now we get into, so that's the let's see, that's them. And then by the time we get to the Nehisiu, where we see their name right here, we have the Nehbird, the twisted flax, folded cloth, the quail chick, the kneeling man with the arm extended, and the plural stroke. That spells the word Nehisiu. So the Nehisiu likewise came into existence for them, but not Sekhmet. Who is this right here?
Heru.
Exactly. And Heru does what? Nej, which is to protect what again? Ba'u, their souls. So instead of Sekhmet protecting the Nehisiu souls, it is Heru that's protecting their souls. But now how their name comes into existence is through the word to strike against. Nehisiu, the word that's used is a word to strike against.
Is it Ninhu over there in that far corner? I said far corner. To the left.
Yes.
Ninhu.
Exactly. Over here. And you see the determinative for force or might. And then it says Ren, their name, content. It says, I am content with 1,000,000. And then Peri, who came forth from within me. See, Peri, like we say, Ra'uniyu Peret Himeru, which means the book of, or the utterances for coming forth. The word Peret is to come forth. But instead of Peret, we have Peri, Imi, to come forth from within me as yours name as Nehisiu. And then come into existence for them is Heru. To do what? To protect their souls. All right, so that's what this text is saying. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I just wanted to show where Sekhmet was mentioned. Now Sekhmet is mentioned elsewhere as well in the text. All right, but anyway, so anyway, I know I was kind of a little long-winded with that. Yep, go ahead.
So I think it's well. I'll just say I won't say think. Now people are missing something here. I guess these nasty Nubians, right? These who are rebellious. The Egyptians hate them. They're part of the 9 bowls, but yet one of their chief Netchers is protecting their souls in the underworld.
Right.
Shouldn't they just boil in oil and be inverted with their heads cut off?
Exactly. But it's not. It's not. And that's what people got to understand. That's why we can't project our modern ideologies backwards in antiquity. That's why when people use the color thing, race thing. Are the Egyptians black? Are the Nubians black? And this and that. All these modern notions and constructs, we can't use it because you got to be like, well, wait a minute, isn't a contradiction if if I see some King Tutankhamun shoes where he has in the soles of the shoes, he got these Nubians at the bottom of his feet, and they're known as the nine bows to Poseju or Pejet, and they're the enemies of the state. Why is it that in the Egyptian so-called heaven, which is the underworld, afterlife, you got the Nubians there, and they chilling and being protected by Sekhmet?
Yeah, people assume that if you find
Oh,
that,
sorry, by Heru, sorry.
I'm saying that people assume that if you read a text and then you see one group of people saying, I know there's a quote or a text that says that these people saw the other group A, saw group B in this particular sense, where it's kind of negative. Then because of living in a, in a country, because let's just be honest, it's not all countries that that have whatever everybody experiences in America. It's like that. So you have to be, or you can't just paint every, or look at every situation or every experience on a broad global thing in that sense. But because in America the racial thing is very intensified, racism is everywhere, but it's very intensified in Americas. So that's the lens that people look at differences. So then they see that in a text, and then everybody projects that. But people forget that. Let's say that you read it. You read apart from if you didn't have oral traditions and you read a text coming from let's say the Maasai people wrote something about the Luo people, then if those people didn't exist anymore, or one particular group of people didn't exist, and you're just reading it, people would actually assume that there were different races of people because of how they saw, how they see each other. People forget that those differences, they're still well and alive. It doesn't. It's got nothing to do with races, but it's more that this is my group and that is your group. This is my culture and that's your culture. But people just jump the gun and say, well, there must have been different races because the Ramech said the Nehisu were the wretched ones and things of that nature. So it's different races. But then that would mean that everybody in Africa, all those ethnic groups that don't get along are different races. People gotta stop doing that and just see things for what they are, cultures for what they are.
Yep, excellent point. And we just got to get it in the heads of everybody.
It brings to mind the social phenomenon of joking relationships. In a lot of societies in West Africa, if you didn't know about joking relationships, you could see two people insulting each other, but you wouldn't know that that is actually part of the culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what's similar to what you're just explaining is what we do today, joning on each other, ragging on each other, and people be the best of friends, but they just rag on each other all the time. I think we all experienced that growing up, But if you're an outsider looking in, you're like, man, how can you say such harsh words against your friend? How are you sure that it's your friend?
In Mali, it's an actual institution. It's an actual royal institution, even in Senegal, to the point where, people that were subservient to other people could, like a person with a certain family name could come up to another person and be like, ain't you supposed to be in the field somewhere? You could be in the middle of a bank. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to be working somewhere with my water. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
since they're both from the culture, they'll understand. And like, I see the same kind of thing here. You know what I mean?
And you know what? As a small version of that I experienced personally is I noticed like me, growing up here in the United States, obviously your parents tell you when you ask for something you say please, and when you're given something you say thank you, and you don't boss people around. But I notice people from certain other cultures, it's normal for them to tell you what to do, but they don't mean it in a bossy way, but that's how it come out. They be like, give me some water. and that'll be it. They'll say, can I have some water, please? We say, can I have some water, please? But they say, give me some
Right.
water.
Like, who
And
you
we look at,
talking to?
yeah, we look at them like, what? You crazy? You better get your own water. But in their society, that's polite. That's normal. It's
Yeah.
like, why sugarcoat it? Just get me some water. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Yeah.
That's how Kenyans be. And then, give me some water. And then, give me some water, please, will be the people from Tanzania. And we joke about that all the time.
Facts. And what if there's not even really like a real word for please? Like it's more like for the love of God. Like
Mm.
so like somebody ask you something, but they'll be like Ngidiyala, like for the love of God, like just give me this, you know what I mean?
Crazy. In Luo, we don't have please either. We have praying, or the word for praying, as that we can use to be polite. But yeah, that's interesting.
In English, to question something was the word pray means to ask. And so in old English they used to say, I pray you to fetch me a glass of water.
Wow.
That's how they used to say it. So the semantic scope is transferred. It's still there. But let me just show this thing. I still got it big on the screen. I want to show you all where Sekhmet is mentioned again. So listen. So Sekhmet protects the Asiatics. Heru protects the souls of the Nehisiu, and then the last group, which are the Chemehu. You see the word Chemehu. Chemehu. These four figures, they are protected by Sekhmet. And you see Sekhmet in right here. The word Sekhmet, that's the determinative, and then her whole name. So her whole name is in this column. And so again, it says came into existence for them, Sekhmet, to protect their souls. So you see Ba'u, you see the word Nej again, and then you have the word Ba, and then the plural strokes are the next column. So Ba'u. So Sekhmet protects both the Libyans and the Asiatics. All right. Heru protects the Hisiu. But what's interesting is if all three of them protected, who protects the Egyptians? Aha.
Interesting.
There ain't no protection up here. Why? Because they don't need it. They are the cattle. All of them are the cattle of Ra, and they emanate from the tears of Ra, and so on and so forth. And see this word chau is for their nose is breath or wind, etc. But yeah, we can get into this another time though. I don't want to spoil it because this is only the 5th hour. I mean, I want to have a whole series of live streams or discussions. Talking about the Book of Gates as a whole. Because if we skip and start off at the 5th hour, people are like, what's going on? how we get here?
Did you mention like what was the general purpose for the Book of Gates?
The overall purpose for the book, it was part of a royal code. That's why you find it in all the royal tombs of the 18th from the 18th dynasty forward after the Amarna period. And I named the tombs that it exists in. And it's very rare to find it in a private tomb outside of royalty. But the overall thing is to attach the king to the traveling of the sun through these particular gates. And they all work together now. You got the Book of Gates, the Amduat, which is Imiduat, which is that which is in the Amduat, the Book of Caverns, the Book of Caves, and the Book of Earth. And all these are underworld texts that overlap each other. And you have to know passwords. You have to know the attributes of deities to have these conversations and so on and so forth. And they are used as initiatory documents for the living. And that's all I would say at this point right now.
For sure.
So just like the Book of the Dead, people think the Book of the Dead is for dead people, but nobody who's dead is going to read any books. So what use does it have for a dead person? Nothing. But it's actually for people who are alive to perform those things each and every day. When you come forth at light, you do that every night. You go into the underworld every night and you come forth, Peret im Heru, you come forth by Heru, light every day. Heru is the word for light. It means the word is word for day, literal daylight. That's why they translate it as light sometimes. Sometimes translate it as day, but it's really daylight. Whereas Gare is the word for night or darkness. It's not Su as in a 24-hour day, but it's literally light. So you wake up to light after having gone through that whole judgment and all that kind of stuff. You do that for yourself, to yourself, because you can only judge yourself as the Osir in that particular text. And this one is no different, because Heru is the one talking here. So if I would scoot this over just to show y'all, right here in the beginning, it's saying by Heru. So Heru is here. He's the one speaking, and he's speaking to the cattle of Ra. You see, I would Ra right there.
Nini Aoud.
Yeah, the cattle of Ra, and then it tells you where they are. Meu, which is that who are in, and then it says Duat, the Duat of Kemet and Desheret. So all of Kemet, and then it goes on to say what's good, what's going on, and it said, and it's saying that they are transfigured. Talking about these, they're transfigured, or transfiguration of the cattle of Ra, and then it goes into that they came into being through the Great One, who is in the sky. And if I go over here, you see the word pet right here, and then breath to their nose, and so on and so forth. So we get into that. And that's interesting though, because in the Bible, man comes into being by way of what?
Breathing into the nose.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
God takes man, God forms man from the dust of the ground and blew into his nostrils, and man became a living soul, and this and that third. Well, it's through this chau, through the nose, finej, their noses, and loosening their, you see the word wet or wetu, which is mummy wrappings. The loosening of the mummy wrappings. So they're breathing air into the nose and loosening the mummy wrappings,
bringing them to life.
Exactly. Then it says, from my tears of my brilliant eye, right here, Remich. Let me scoot this over. From the tears of my brilliant eye, in your name as the Remech. So the Remech come into existence from the tears of Ra, but after life-giving breath or air is given in their nose, and the mummy wrappings are loosened. And all of the things I just said have significance in the culture. And certain people doing what? You got the Sim priests and certain priests and women with their hair. They have a ritual where they pull the hair, the pulling of the hair, and they drape the hair and they wipe the hair on the deceased body, and doing all this other kind of stuff. And sometimes, just in case people may have wondered why they see Osset and Nebethut with white hair painted, their hair being gray or white, is connected to a bit to what I'm saying, because their hair becomes blended into the white mummy and linen wrappings on Usir's body. Remember, every deceased person is an Osiris or an Usir.
Mm-hmm.
And they become unwrapped. And a lot of people should know about the opening of the mouth ceremony and stuff, where the faculties of their senses are given back to do certain things. But anyway, so let me go down this chat, boy, because I'll get distracted and keep on going. I don't know where I left off at. I think he said. Okay, he says, welcome to the Replacing the Remage project. Replacing the Remage. All right. I don't know what that is all about.
Yeah, we just gotta ignore Dash.
Scrolling.
at this point because he's pretty much just trolling. So yeah.
Yeah, I think people, man. I think people. I don't know. Maybe I can petition Apple or Microsoft to put some more tighter parental controls on computers and the internet, because these children get on the internet. It's crazy. Okay, so Fitz says, would you not say there was a change of stylistic form in the Amarna period of the 18th dynasty too, which was drastic compared to other periods? Yes, definitely yes. The Amarna period of the artistic styles are very distinct. So you're absolutely right about that. The Amarna period is it sticks out like a sore thumb. It definitely does. Yep. So yes, you're right about that. Aaron says some guy on Facebook said Ra is really Mars. Aaron, ignore him. That's all I gotta say. Well, no. I take that back. Don't ignore people that do that. Just listen. We have to get into a habit of asking for support. Like if they're making that claim, demand, support for the claim. Then if they don't do that, if they tell you some wild stuff like I made it up or I came up with that, that's when you just go ahead. You gotta be like, all right, click, ignore. Okay, ignore that. But at first, just ask for the proof, ask for the support, ask for the evidence. Just ask for evidence. Yep, just ask for evidence. Ra is really Mars. And then when people say really, you got to be cautious about it. That's lift your eyebrow. X is really Y. Because see, Egypt didn't get down like that. Egypt had multi-simultaneous layers going on. So, for example, Satuk, like each deity they don't have like a singular definitive role or function. They have overlapping attributes and functionalities. So to say Ra is really Mars, that's as if to say Ra is nothing else but Mars, even if that were true. You see what I'm saying? And Egypt didn't do that. They didn't get down like that. Egyptians didn't get down like that. They just didn't do it. Even the priests weren't priests all the time. The various different priests, they did their priestly duties, but then, for like a month, and then they got to go back to secular work, cleaning toilets and stuff. Say working a cash register. You know what I mean? They working in the temple of the deities. Then all of a sudden, next month they up there, cleaning toilets and working the cash register at ancient Mekides. All right, what else we got going on? Okay, I don't even know why I even be showcasing this guy's stuff. Slave to Egyptology.
Something be wrong with people.
Okay, Hassan, let's see. Hassan says, so each has a main divinity of protection. Oh, in this text, yes. Out of the four, yes. Except for the Egyptian. Egyptian doesn't have an explicit protector that's mentioned in that part. So you got Sekhmet and Heru. All right, let's see. Oh, who's protecting the Asiatics? Okay, you might have came. Well, I'm seeing this comment late. I think I answered that already. The Asiatics are protected by Sekhmet. The Nubians are protected by Heru, and the Chimehu or Libyans are protected by Sekhmet. Their souls. And you have to remember this too. In the Egyptian text, sometimes souls is equivalent to nations. So, for example, in the tomb of Horemheb, you will see where you have this jubilation pose that the Kemetic yoga folks use as a Kemetic yoga pose, where the fist is in the air and one hand is on their chest and the other hand is in the air, like like the Black Power symbol, gesture. In that tomb, the people of Butu and the people of Neken are identified as souls, and they're talked about in that particular tomb as souls. So we gotta be aware of that. Sometimes souls are the equivalent of nations of people. All right. Next, Victor Thompson says, "I knew 16 was." Oh, okay. He's talking about the list. Let's see. Anybody else? Everything is everything. Mr. Spider himself. What others see as arguments, we are used as bonding mechanisms. Okay. Yep. There you go. Yeah, I can't. We can't. Can't allow the pseudos and the crazies to run us crazy. What else we got going on? All right, Victor Thompson. I'm almost at the bottom. Sadiq, I know Sadiq got some stuff, but he trying to keep us up all night. What is the Book of Hours? I know I'm getting ahead of myself. The Book of Hours. He said the Book of Hours. If it's an Egyptian, now mind you, some of these books are called different things by different scholars. Okay, so you have the Book of Gates, and then you have the 12 hours of the Amduat. What else do we have? So there's hours there. Then there's divisions. Within the divisions, you have the hours. Then you have the gates. You have the 12 caverns. The Book of the Heavenly Cow. What else?
Yeah, I was trying to look that up, and the only thing I came up with is a Christian book, medieval Christian book. Unless you're talking like the hours that you're talking that you was speaking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It may be a book that somebody wrote about that's their name for an Egyptian text. You know what I'm saying? So Victor, if you can give me more information on that. All right, look, hey Sadiq, I think I'm gonna cue you up, man. I don't know. We could talk about a little bit about whatever you want to talk about. I'm gonna quickly run through these. Does it make sense that Sekhmet, being the spark that inspired female warriors, was a persecutor of Inyabingi and Rasta? I'm unfamiliar with those two terms. You're gonna have to enlighten me on that.
He was like Rasta and Rastafari. You'll see the lion. You'll see the lion behind King Haile Selassie.
Okay. Let me just short. I don't know. So let me just say straight out. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. But what I can say about Sekhmet, Sekhmet is a lioness deity, come in the form of a female with a lioness head, and a sun disc above her head. But the notion of the courage of a lion and lion stuff, you have other deities. You have Mahes, not Sekhmet. Hatshepsut. She took the form of a lion, and other kings did the same thing, where lion was used. So it may not necessarily be Sekhmet, because those are male lions. Sekhmet is a female lion. All right, so you got male lions that inspired and offered that warrior, protection during war and stuff like that. And one such off the top of my head, one is Mahes. Look up Mahes. I think it's Mahes. Look up the lion, Mahes, as a deity. Yeah. Probably didn't spell that correctly. Anyway. Yeah, I definitely didn't spell that correctly. I just tried to find it, and I definitely spelled it right. Somebody help me out here. There we go. Maahes. Mahes. It's Mahes. All right, cool. Maahes. Look up that lion head deity, and it's the god of war. So if you're talking about warriors, look into that.
Plato said that when you go to chemistry school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. Classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher. Achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.